What's up, everybody? This is Carrick with ACG, and I'm here with Silver and Johnny for the Best Gaming Podcast number 517. If you guys get a chance and you missed out, we've got some side podcasts that are going on. It's just me by myself doing some mini podcasts discussing news. Those are on iTunes and Spotify as well. I want to thank these guys for showing up and enjoying the weekend or the starting of the weekend with me. Silver didn't get to come last week. He's doing every other week. So we'll start with him first. What have you been playing?
Helldivers, a bunch. Helldivers 2, and also been returning a little bit to Star Wars Outlaws.
Oh, Star Wars Outlaws? DLC,
Yeah.
right? Popped up too for Star Wars.
There did, but I haven't really been playing that yet. I never actually got around to finishing Outlaws, so I'm sort of trying to do that.
What do you think of the Helldivers 2 changes?
I think they're great. Like the new enemy types are, like, one in particular is really brutal, which is the strafing runs. That wipes out my team consistently when I'm playing with randoms. Like they don't seem to be particularly aware of it coming. And it's tricky to counter too.
Silver, I didn't catch. What's the enemy?
It's strafing runs. Like the Luminants now get the ability to do like strafing runs on you with an aerial craft that goes in and trails like a path of static electric fire that you have to dodge out of. You can shoot it down because if you don't shoot it down, it'll just keep coming. Like you can actually see it hovering and flying around in the sky and lining up its attack runs.
That's one of the best parts, Silver, with that game in particular, that a lot of games don't hit, is the feeling of like the fiction consistently occurring around you. You know, with that flying.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like if everything just feels solidified in that game.
And especially the way it all then fuses into just the constant chaos that you have to adapt to throughout a mission. But yeah, there's also like a new enemy that's almost Reaper-like from Mass Effect, which is basically just an amalgamation of like voteless zombie corpses that are basically in this amorphous blob walking around with multiple arms and whatnot. That's really, really tough to kill. It doesn't have any armor or anything, but it just has a really, really high health pool to the point that it can take rockets to the face and stuff. So yeah, that one, and it can be deceptively fast as well. So that one can also be quite challenging if you don't know how to deal with it. And then there's a new overseer for the Illuminates as well, with like an artillery gun, who basically shoots mortar orbs at you, arcs them over obstacles and whatnot to hit you. And like when you combine all of those with the enemies already, it can get very, very hectic. Very quickly.
Are you doing PC or PlayStation?
PC.
How's that run on PC with all that shit going on?
For me, it runs fine. A lot of people are having performance issues. The main issue I have with Helldivers 2, and I've had that since launch, is that it has a tendency to freeze when you quit the application, which is really annoying. And that still hasn't been resolved for whatever reason. The game doesn't like quitting, which maybe is thematically appropriate, but it is somewhat annoying. Also, they've aside from the enemies, they added in the ability now to customize your primary weapons. You still cannot customize your support or secondary weapons, but most of the primary weapons now have customization options where you can add stuff like grips, barrel attachments, scopes, stuff like that to larger clips as well for some of the guns, like larger heating vents for some of the laser weapons and stuff, as well as different cosmetic patterns for the guns as well that you can apply now.
What graphics card are you running?
4070 Super.
And it runs, a 4070 Super? Oh, that's not bad at all. Okay, that's actually pretty powerful. Damn. All right, that's cool. What about you, Johnny? What have you been playing? What have you been enjoying?
So I completed Expedition 33, and this week I got into some Doom. Although I haven't been able to play as much because I was having some issues with the day one driver, and then just kind of some general stability issues in the game with like a few crashes or saves not working and stuff. And that compounded with the fact that I was streaming, just didn't.
Oh, you mean
didn't work too well?
Right. Because you were streaming, and it was just causing issues with like your performance.
Right, it was causing issues. I did get a solid like 2-3 hours, and I've been enjoying it a lot. I was surprised by how the parry stuff fits so seamlessly. Kind of feels like it's always been there in a way.
Yeah. Did you? What difficulty did you choose?
I was doing I think it's called Ultra Violence. So it's kind of the easy one, sort of the default one they give you when you start off to feel it out. But I'm already seeing that probably I want to dial it up a little bit because it is a bit slow. Yeah, projectiles and stuff.
Yeah, it is a bit slow. I think it's a bit noticeable sometimes. Silver, are you going to do Doom?
Probably at some point. I don't really feel that need, that itch at the moment for that kind of action.
To jump in, basically.
Yeah. Did
you do Eternal?
I did, yeah. And Eternal was a bit of a disappointment for me a little bit. But I still liked it overall.
Why do you think it was a disappointment?
I just didn't feel like the whole hop world stuff and all that. I didn't, and the attempt to sort of the narrative elements that they attempted to weave into it, I don't think they worked very well. Also, the increased platforming aspects as well weren't great either. I felt they didn't really play to Doom's strengths, to what Doom feels like for me.
Right.
So those were all elements that sort of lessened my enjoyment of Eternal as compared to like Doom 2016.
Yeah, so speaking of that, what about you, Johnny? Like, what are your thoughts of the way it feels versus maybe like what you played, if you played Doom and Doom Eternal? How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I like it more than Eternal because I felt like in Eternal my attention was being pulled in different directions with some of the movement. I can see someone liking that, but for me, I would rather focus more so on the enemies. And so in this one, I like that. I also like the fact that you can sprint and gap close into people. So that makes it much better than what I thought. So you're constantly moving, constantly gap closing, and then getting your shield back, proccing your abilities with the shield.
Right.
And they're very satisfying too. Like some of them where, like, for example, you can like put a bunch of bullets into a big enemy and then they light up. And if you put your shield in them, then they kind of explode. And a lot of those effects are really satisfying. So as much as I miss the glory kills, because I did like those, I think some of these like abilities and interactions with the shield are really, really smart. Makes a lot of sense. And they have a lot of kind of dopamine sounds attached to each of these things. You know, like when you parry something, it feels rewarding because you get the, you know, the blank whatever sound. And then like when you hit something with the shield and it blows up, or when you blow up an energy shield and it's a big ass AoE that destroys everything. Like everything is sort of overblown. Even the parry window, by the way, it's very generous. Like I've found myself,
it's a parry door,
completely messing it up. like definitely didn't hit it right.
Yeah, and
it's still kind of corrected back for me. And but then again, I'm playing in this mode where the parry window has the setting in half, like in terms of the bar, the difficulty bar. So that's another thing I think I'm gonna kind of tune down a bit, because it does feel a bit cheap when you know, technically you shouldn't have gotten the parry, right? You can see you didn't land it.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it so far. Yeah. I think it's solid. I've missed, I don't know about you guys, this is just my first run in the game, but I'm missing like 80% of the secrets, man. I'm just terrible at finding the secrets.
You mean when it comes up and it says like at the very end of the game?
Yeah, like out of 10, I maybe found 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely noticed that. I would say in general, I think that the parry window is wide, maybe too wide for a normal gamer who maybe has played Doom before, but you can turn the color. I turn the color to red so that you can't see it amongst the others, other than it's got a weird shape. It's almost like got a shading to it that you can't.
It's got a
really
fuzzy
turn
to
off.
it, like a little electricity.
Yeah, and that was a blast to do. And then have you adjusted speed at all, or are you not?
Nothing yet. I'm just playing
jump yet.
The preset for now.
The only thing I don't like is I know that it's called game speed, but it does bother me that when you turn it up or down, it does speed up everything. So even like if a spaceship is flying by, yeah, I wish it was just the enemies, but even the animations, the voices. So if you're on the radio, somebody will be like, if you're at 50%. And it's like,
really?
Yeah. So if a newcomer came in and adjusted that to feel out how Doom feels lower, I don't know why anybody would play it at 50, but you know, you might want to do some really cool moves. You could do like 100, you know, like a ton of damage to the Slayer, and maybe have it be like a slow motion super hot kind of thing, which would be very fun. But I do find that in general, it just feels like a missed opportunity to do game mode. I understand why it's game mode. You know, I understand that it's like, it's easier to just say the entire game's faster, but I don't think I've seen that before. I don't know about you guys. I know I've seen enemy speed before. I don't think I've seen entire game is just going to be overclocked. Merry Christmas.
You know, I've seen it in some JRPG remakes where they give you a 2x or 4x, and generally you use it when you're running around doing random encounters and farming.
Oh, because you want to get through like the grind?
Yes, but I haven't seen it where there's ever any dialogue or anything like that.
Yeah, JRPGs got away with it because the dialogue was,
they don't have much.
When you hit the A button, right? Or Expedition when you hit the F button. Overall, I think it's a really good way for them to go. I do understand that every Doom since 2016 has felt different. So I do understand. Eternal has love now, but I got to tell you guys, when I first covered Doom, it didn't get a lot of love. Eternal, there was a lot of, you know, sort of idiosyncrasies about how it played, and now you'll see people saying, "Oh, it's always, you know, it's amazing," blah blah blah. And it's like, well, wish you guys would have spoke up back in the day, because especially when Eternal came out, even the developers were like, "Oh, we get it. You know, this is, you know," they were trying to sort of explain it, saying, "Hey, this is different." I think the same will happen here. Good or bad. Recency bias is a thing. Good or bad, but
there's also the whole soundtrack controversy with Eternal.
Yeah, Eternal definitely also just changed it up, because I think people saw 2016 and they were like, "This feels." There was nothing to compare it to that was recent, so you were like, "Okay, this is now Doom or whatever." And then 2016, they were pretty ballsy to be like, "We're going to do this other thing, and you're just going to have to figure it out." And then they did the same thing with this one, and I'll be the first to admit I was not at all sold until I played it, and I was like, "Oh damn, you know what? That feels good." I wish the projectiles were a little faster, because even when you speed them up, you speed everything up. It is definitely a little slower pace than I think I would like. Maybe they'll do some adjustments there. What have you thought of enemy design and stuff, Johnny? Has there been anybody that stood out, or weapon design? How about weapon design, or either one?
Yeah, I like the weapons so far. The one where you break up skulls and shoot them out is really fun to look at. I like them. I'm not that big of a fan of the plasma. There's something about plasma that doesn't...
Unexciting as hell, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit unexciting. But the other stuff I've liked quite a lot. And I'm liking the abilities too, where you can get like either extra AoE or like set people on fire with your shots and stuff like that. That's been cool. And then kind of like choosing, am I going to sort of main a certain weapon over others, or am I going to like distribute around the points So that was also because you also have to spend your currency on shield plus your melee. And melee is very strong too, so that it's not an easy choice.
Yeah.
Necessarily. And I mean the shield too. The shield honestly is really strong.
Yeah, the shields. I mean, technically, you can, for a lot of the game, you can just sit back and if you wanted to, at least get a lay of the land for a bit with that shield, which is I think that's one of the better parts of the game. Like we joked about last Friday, he starts the fucking thing like a lawnmower. You know it's badass when it's a gasoline engine running.
When you put that thing on, and it's like,
you're dude. And then later you get runes for the shield, which is pretty sweet, and you can choose between those. I like the flail when it comes to up close. I thought that was it just felt nice. I would say it still feels like a Doom hand to hand, which never feels as good as the guns. Also, plasma. I agree with you. I don't know of a game where I've loved plasma, but I will say in this one, there are the updates that allow the electricity to bounce from enemy to enemy. That's when the plasma gun becomes a baller weapon. Like because you can stun another enemy when you kill the first one, and that'll give you just that brief, like just that momentary bit of just seconds that you may need to sort of figure out where your next spot is. Also, the speed clearing shield bash is hilarious. It's 8,000 miles of jump. Like when you lock onto somebody and you hit that button, it really doesn't matter. If you can see them, you're probably going to hit them. It's so when you jump off a cliff, and I always jump off the cliff, look around as you're falling. It doesn't matter because if you trigger it right at the end, it'll still work. So like looking around, being like, okay, oh, I'm going to go over there. And then you hit it right before you hit the ground, and you still are like, you mow over there, which feels good.
Satisfying.
Yeah.
By the way, I was just verifying. I'm seeing your audio is a bit low compared to ours.
Yeah, you guys are a bit hot. I don't know if you
can bring us down, maybe?
No, we're all at -5 exactly.
We're hot.
Now. You guys are a tiny bit hot because you're combined on Discord, because you guys both come into me and I'm single, so mine will go up and down more than yours. That's pretty normal.
And Johnny, you're a little low for me compared to Carrick. Strangely. Yeah.
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's fine. I just looked on the actual stream and it's completely fine. When it comes to like games also that we've been playing, I do talk a little bit about Precinct. I got to play a ton of Precinct, 25-30 hours. It's definitely a different game. Precinct is one of those games where I think if it overstays its welcome, you're going to start to pick on it really quick. You're going to start looking at stuff and going, I don't like this, I don't like that. This kind of feel to it. It's not a GTA game. It is a police simulator. And so when I was trying to show
like the old Police Quest, right?
It is. And you're literally reading your handbook, and you have to like give out. And I will tell people, I really do want to warn you, there is an option in that game I suggest you do not turn on. And that option is automatic fines, which basically does the work for you. And it really removes the entire cycle of you trying to pay attention to what's going on when you're chasing down a perp and he crashes through somebody or hurts somebody, where you have to figure out what fine to give them. If you remove that, it will just auto fine them, and you can't get negatives to the experience. I thought one of the best parts about getting negatives to the experience was the occasional time where I stated, oh, this guy, tried to hurt somebody or whatever, and I was wrong, or they did, I thought that they had stolen a car. So I was like, they broke into the car. They had also hurt some people in the vehicle, and they were like, no, they didn't break into the car. They were pulled over for drunk driving or whatever. And I was
learning what the system wants you to do, right?
Yeah, and I would just say, just don't turn it on if you're playing this game. You'll enjoy it. An entire series of steps is removed when you do, and I just don't think that's going to get the best enjoyment out of that game. It's an odd game. It's pretty cumbersome. The world looks amazing when you're driving, but when you're walking around, it's really old looking. So you got to be aware of that sort of dichotomy there. But it seems like it's doing really well on Steam, which I appreciate. I don't know what I would have reviewed it, because definitely
I think their demo helped them.
It's cumbersome. Yeah, I think the demo helped them because also you can get an idea right away if you just like the generic gameplay when you do the demo.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I like the generic gameplay. That's sort of the way it is. So
it's currently very positive on Steam in terms of reviews.
Very positive. Yeah. we'll have to see. Like, I would like hopefully some of you guys play it, because I feel like that's pretty high.
I will probably play it.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty high, and that that a lot of the people who are going to play it are, especially if they see that, they'll be like, okay, there's no issues, and you can go eternal, which was another thing people were saying. Oh, can you just drive around forever? It's like, no. I mean, you technically could if you just decided to not move further, but it tracks time and stuff through your day.
Yeah.
And it gives you experience points at the end of your day, where you get to choose your upgrades and stuff. But so I played it. Yeah, it was. Oh, whoops! There goes my dogs. It was highly enjoyable. Are you guys going to do that one, or well, it sounds like Silver's going to do it. Are you guys going to do Deliver at All Costs? Do you think?
I think I'm gonna wait on reviews for that one.
Continue. Sorry, my dogs are freaking.
To see how it pans out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Have you seen that one, Silver?
Probably
Deliver at All
not.
Costs?
I have, yeah, but probably not. I'm more to the more mellow delivery experience.
Right. Right. Yeah,
Probably.
it'll be interesting to see how that one does too, because there's just 2 or 3 of these like drive around the city games that are popping up, which is pretty interesting. Dogs are agreeing. Continue. Sorry.
They are.
Shut these
for
guys up.
Precinct, what worries me about the very positive when you look at it is that a lot of those reviews are a few hours in, which could be just like the honeymoon phase, right? Where you're wowed by the world looks great, by the way. So that's one thing, right? That's gonna straight away like make a mark. And then maybe you're just excited about that and like posting a review. And we always have to remember that Carrick and like other people are talking after playing for like 30 hours plus.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different
perspective.
Sort of a different perspective on that one. Yeah. But on the other hand, you get it for $20-$25 and you're okay with, 6 to 8 hours. Then you also maybe you're a person who doesn't even want to win it, or, get to the end and you just want to drive around, give some people some tickets. That's definitely enjoyable. I will say the shooting, I think everybody here who plays it is going to be like, damn, that shooting's rough. Because it is definitely oddly old school in its shooting.
Clunky.
But, yeah, it's the one where you have the cursor that moves around with your mouse and it's distance and direction. And obviously you would want that because, you wouldn't want just direction because you'd be shooting all the innocents. But it just takes a while to get accustomed to. And those cursors are never grabby enough for me mentally. Maybe it's because my screen's large, but sometimes when I engage the cursor, I have to look for it for a little bit and go, where the hell is my cursor right now? Like, where's it popping up on the screen when you first engage it, when you first pull the weapon? But I do like that you can get new cars and you can get new weapons and stuff in the game. I shouldn't call them weapons because really you're a cop. You're not supposed to be, just unloading on people with shotguns and stuff, but you do get them, and they do have more major crime as well as a taser.
I'm just glad it's more forgiving than the old Police Quest, because if you had took one step out of procedure in those games, it was game over instantly.
You get destroyed, wouldn't you? Those were good games though.
Yeah,
they were enjoyable.
Like if you had when you had to pull somebody over for a traffic stop, you had to do the full checklist. And if you missed 1 point on the checklist, you would instantly die, and it would be game over.
Dude, that's crazy, man.
In the old Sierra games.
I liked them. I like that kind of stuff. I just think that kind of stuff is awesome. Let's see, what else do we got? Oh, and I will say it is very, I guess the easiest way to describe that game is it feels very Destroy All Humans for some reason. Like there's something about it that feels like Destroy All Humans when you're playing, which is good. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I like it. It's got that humor, sort of that weird sense of humor that it's got going. So highly enjoyable game. Johnny's got
very much seems like a tribute to 80s cop movies.
Yeah.
Hill Street Blues and stuff like that.
And TV shows like NYPD Blue, or those sort of procedural where you're just a guy running around giving people tickets and then something terrible happens. That's sort of what happens here, is within 5 minutes, you're engaged in all these other activities that are so far beyond your station. You're like, seriously, I'm just a rookie. And they're like, could you be an in-between between the multiple factions and gangs? And you're all, I mean, I could, but I feel like I'm vastly undertrained for this, but I'll go for it. I wanted to get to a discussion that Johnny had early because it'll probably be one of the things that pops up in the discussion a couple times, or when people jump in to listen. Ask what's the overall question here, Johnny? How big do you like them? So
yes.
So size matters. What are we talking about though?
Desk mats or mouse pads. So I've transitioned completely into desk mats. Like I want a big ass desk mat that takes up pretty much my entire like usable space. I got my keyboard, my mouse on it. I have space to have like my whatever organizer to write on.
Right.
And it's all smooth. I'm never like touching the actual desk. And there's no like borders. I'm not running into borders with my mouse or anything.
So this is a change for you. This is the first time you've gone with like a desk
I
mat.
used to be a mouse pad guy for sure. Like maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah, I would say I'm desk mat as well. That's pretty much what I have. I do the mouse on a piece of wood right now, like a desktop right now, but I'll probably get an extension for it. But I like desk mats as well, because you can wash them and they keep your desk
100%.
from getting scratched up or food on it. You know, like you have to clean it a bunch of times here. I just
or
roll
something
this thing
sticky.
up.
Like
multiple Diet Mountain Dews being spilled on there. I also like that it's grabbier than the wood, which you put something down, it'll have teeth or feet that'll try to stop it from sliding, but you know how that works. So having I think the entire mat I've really liked. The only thing I don't know about you, Johnny, before we see what Silver likes, I've noticed with the mat, it discolors faster, or it gets the colors lose vibrancy very quickly. That weirdly enough does bother me. I do sort of wish it looked almost like the pictures you see online for a long period of time. Maybe it's just the light. I don't know. But.
Yeah, I think it also depends where you get it from. I've had differing success rates, from different places where I got them from. The latest one I've been pretty happy with, but we'll see how long it lasts.
Where did you get it from? You can pimp them.
I got it from a place called Technically Stable. It came with a little air freshener for some reason.
Story of my life. Technically.
Yeah. So they're pretty good. They have like their own designs. Like they work with artists to have their own designs, and I found quite a lot that I enjoyed. So I picked up like 2 or 3 to switch between, to like wash them and stuff.
What design did you get?
So I got one. I can probably show you actually, real quick.
Oh, you have your camera, don't you?
I hope this is not going to be a crotch cam situation.
Extra
hope for the best.
Yeah, extra super chats.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Oh, no, that's not bad.
Yeah, so it's like a ninja.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It says the hunter there.
Yeah, that's the same size as mine. I like those
bright yellow
ones. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which the bright yellow also lets you find stuff when it falls.
I also incidentally got with it this keycap. It's like a cheese. And it's on my ultimate button, like my ultimate ability button in League of Legends.
Oh,
so I press that to cheese. Yeah. Pretty good stuff.
What about you, Silver? A mouse pad, game mat, or desk mat, or nothing?
I've never even seen like a desk mat in a store here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably online.
So really, it's always just been mouse pads, because that's what was in my milieu, as it were. I never encountered desk pads but honestly, it is something I'm interested in, for sure, because there seems to be there's a lot of convenience in just covering more area on the desk, for sure.
And like you and I have like artists that we follow or whatever, you can just ask them to print usually you can find that print somewhere if it's an artist you like the comic book artists and stuff. It's pretty nice having the bigger art. Besides, on a mouse pad, weirdly enough, it is just the mouse pad and you have your hand on it. So you're covering, if there is a design, half the time you're covering it with your hand and the mouse. So the desk mat, I feel, is like sort of nice to be able to see the full thing. It's
Right.
It's pretty good in that way. Love the games. $5 super chat. What's up, sir? He says, if you like the raid, check out The Night Comes for Us. He's directing the new Nobody 2. Who is he, by the way? What's everybody's favorite action movie? Raid 2 for him. Favorite action movie?
Probably Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Ooh, Raiders of the Lost Ark is good. Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark is pretty fucking sweet. Probably The Rock for me.
Ooh,
like,
good one.
Yeah, there was something
Classic,
about
like
it.
90s.
Yeah, and I remember nothing at the time was really filming like that. It was a slightly different style of action film, and it was sort of surprising. Other than that, it might be a Lethal Weapon or something, because like those were
great.
Those were great at the time. Yeah, they were fun.
I think
Bullet
for
Train
me,
is high though. I just
dude,
wanted to point out.
Bullet Train, recent one.
Bullet Train is, for a movie
Super
that
fun.
just came out, and recency bias is over, so I've sort of rethought about, did anything change? No. Bullet Train is
The original Matrix as well.
phenomenal. Oh yeah, the original Matrix is awesome. Yeah. So, what were you going to say, Johnny? I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
I think I would have to say probably some Mission Impossible. I really like those movies. I kind of go back and forth, but I think the one with Henry Cavill is probably my favorite, where they go like in the bathroom, they fight each other. I think it's called Fallout or something. Either way, I've seen that one a few times.
Yeah, that might be Fallout.
Could be wrong.
That might be Fallout.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Dude, Mission Impossible. The other great thing about the Mission Impossible movies is there's not a lot of those kind of action movies anymore.
Right.
As many of those. So when you see it, you pretty much know it's a Mission Impossible. You know, you're like, they've just got a feel to them, sort of like the Bond, used to have. Well, maybe, some of the new Bonds had them, but there's a particular feel to them. Yeah. Good question. Do you think anything happens to Bungie of Marathon and latest Destiny expansion flops? We'll talk about that in a second for sure. We definitely have some of that. But I do want to get to a couple questions. So I picked the best 20 out of 100 here of just random questions that people had asked that I thought would be sort of an interesting discussion matrix for us to go on. Alicia says, what's your favorite guitar riff or solo that gets you hyped? And it like, this is not just for Johnny. They were saying if there's something that you hear in, it can be anything. I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be a guitar solo. It could even be something like just a solo, something where that momentary separation of the main parts of the song, sort of grabs you.
I think still to this day, it's Master of Puppets.
Really?
That intro riff is just legendary.
I don't know why I never expected that. I guess I just don't
especially
hear you mention them very much.
Really? Yeah, I mean, I was a pretty big Metallica fan, especially some of their live performances back in the 80s with the Binge and Purge and stuff, where they played everything almost 20% faster. It was insane, but they were very tight. Everything sounded really, really good.
Right.
So some of those tracks absolutely love. So it's either that one or Sanitarium, also from Metallica, and that one's more of a ballad, but I absolutely love it, man. Fantastic.
Yeah, that one's really good. What about you, Silver? And again, it doesn't have to, if you don't want to choose a guitar solo.
There are a lot of guitar riffs, honestly, that come to mind. Most of them, honestly, are probably Fogerty with CCR.
CCR,
especially the opening riff to Fortunate Son.
Oh yeah, I hadn't even thought about those. Those are old.
Just instant hype for that one. For sure.
Man.
Is
that something that only guitar has, by the way? Or am I biased?
Yeah, I mean, that twang. Yeah. I mean, in that specific instance, for sure. It's that specific twang, which is also very common in Dwayne Eddy. Also had that. Was also really, really good at that sound.
I'm a huge guitar riff fan, and I'm spacing on any one
particular one.
Yeah, because a lot of the guitar riffs are the favorite part of songs for me.
Yeah.
So like,
have you heard the newest Breaking Benjamin
I did.
single called Awaken?
Mm-hmm.
That one has a simple but really, really nice riff in the beginning, like just heavy.
It's simple and I like it, but it's still their stuff, which means it's sort of mastered differently than some of the, like, for example, CCR or older, like, let's say you go back to like guitar heavy rock bands like Def Leppard, where they had sort of the guitars are
more
mastered.
raw, maybe.
Those are like Breaking Benjamin's more raw. When it comes to like Def Leppard, you can clearly tell it's like almost they're like, this is the guitar solo, you know, versus this is supposed to be in the music with everything else. Back then, they didn't even really care if it really went with the song because
it was sitting in the mix or something. It was sitting
in the mix, yeah. And so you get like Steve Clark, who's passed away or whatever, just banging out this amazing. And it's almost like they were like, hey, we like that. We'll put it in the song. Can you just make sure it starts and ends somewhere where it fits with our, you know, how it's gonna fit in? There were a couple where you'd hear them and you'd be like, whoa, where's this going? And then it would sort of somehow latch right back on, and then, you know, the music would start back up and the, you know, whatever it be, the chorus. Yeah, man, that's hard.
Just with general riffs, Henry Mancini's theme for Peter Gunn, the opening riff to that.
I don't know that one.
You've both heard it. I'm almost 100% sure, but you just can identify the title, because that theme is like everywhere.
Ah, right.
It completely pervasive in popular culture. And yeah, when you get that initial beat there that goes, it's just instantly catches your attention.
Okay.
I have one that's weirdly enough adjacent to Johnny's. Megadeth. I think it's Mustaine's least favorite album, and strangely enough might be my favorite. There's a song on Cryptic Writings called Almost Honest, and the guitar riff at the starting is a banger. The other ones I would say would be Banshee from Dance with the Dead, but there's no vocals. It's all a guitar solo. And well, it's not all a guitar solo, but it's all guitars. So it's just, I feel like that's why I was trying to like remove that one from my list, because Banshee is one of my favorite songs of all time. And then Rob Zombie. But I just gave 3 answers, and I always tell Silver he's not allowed to give a bunch of answers. And I just gave 3.
One is but iconic.
Dragula, Living Dead Girl. There's particular like stuff from Rob Zombie that's like, holy shit, this is like my favorite thing, you know, ever kind of stuff. So very good question. Paradise Lost, Fearless Sky is a great riff, Bep says. The Trooper by Iron Maiden.
Yeah, Trooper's good.
Hendrix, Little Wing. Take My Breath Away, Berlin. Do they have a guitar riff in that? Because, dude, if you're joking, by the way, actually, Take My Breath Away is Top Gun, the love song in Top Gun.
Yeah.
Dude, I love when you have an action movie that's got that slow song in it, because they don't do them as much you know.
Yeah, you slow things down, and it's kind of like...
Exactly. You sort of give it a
going
pace
through
or
the
two,
slow-mo.
and you're like, here we go. What's happening? If it's World Police, they're taking a poop on each other in a sex scene. If it's something else, they're just having a sex scene, and you move on. But they had a guitar solo in World Police that I really liked. Weirdly enough, the music in World Police was questionable at best when you hear the wording, but I admit there were some catchy ass songs in that. I wouldn't be singing out in the open.
I think Trey Parker is enormously musically talented.
I think so. I mean,
not just for World Police, but like a lot of the music in South Park, like a lot of the songs in South Park over the years, the Mormon musical as well.
Dude,
I forgot all about that.
Some amazing music.
Yeah. I didn't even remember that one. And then this is also Alicia.
In Bigger, Longer, Uncut as well. Sorry, the songs in that.
No, it's all right. If you could instantly learn one musical instrument and master it, what would you want it to be right now?
I love that instantly. It's like, you know, the Matrix.
Yeah, like that's exactly it. Like if you had that ability to instantly master something now, what would it be?
Violin for sure.
That's mine.
I still play a little bit. I'm not that good. And it's hard for me because of my fingers and my wrists. like physically. But that is definitely the instrument I would love to be able to play competently.
Yeah, that'd be mine as well. What about yours, Johnny?
I think probably keyboard, because I dabble, but at a like self-learn level where like I can play some 41 ballads. That's sort of the level.
Yeah.
When you go to like two-hand different melodies, that becomes super super hard, and I need another
amazing too when
5 years.
can do it. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, being a master at it would be like, you'll see somebody on YouTube playing, and you're just like, dude, how in the hell? Because they'll break it down.
Yeah.
And you're like looking with a camera over the top of somebody's hands, and they're playing, and you're just like, that is amazing.
Or you're passing somebody on the street who just,
and they're playing
like, out of this world.
These stupid kids with their
like,
talent.
Well, how are you not in like a royal concert hall or something? Like, how are you sitting here giving a private concert for me right now on the street?
Yeah, that instant talent is amazing. Speaking of talent and what to do with it, Bungie apparently doesn't have any, so they continue to copy other artists. So this news today, Bungie artists stealing art again for Marathon. I got a list of all of the complaints that have in the past, but we're only really going to cover today's and what's been going on. But in the past 2 weeks, Bungie's been accused of once again using artists' work in the game without proper credit or compensation. So Bungie also responded to this. Basically, what happened was a artist posted their different pictures that they've got for a very particular, and I'll bring these up on. That right there in the lower right, you guys can see is the zoom in. But basically, what's been going on is there is a particular like group of people who do art. I thought it was just one person. Anti-Real is the name, and this is what's crazy. The art showed up in the demo when people were playing it, but there's even a picture that they have that shows that the artists who put it into Marathon basically used a scrubber to remove the group's name, but it still shows up in the demo. And I think their overall reasoning was that it was used as a texture sheet, which is like your sheet to say this is what we want it to look like, and that somehow it got in there. But their response to the complaints, there was one artist who posted it, and then multiple ones who said, here's where our webpage has been for years, well before Marathon. So Bungie stated, we immediately investigated a concern regarding unauthorized use of artist decals in Marathon, confirmed a former Bungie artist included these in a texture sheet that was ultimately used in game. The issue was unknown by our existing art team, and we're still reviewing how this oversight occurred. I'm pretty sure that's the response that I expected, which is that, that person's already gone,
right,
deflected, whatever. It's just one of those things. This one's a little worse because not only does it show the exact, I guess you would say the exact, the art that really is taken, but the fact that it was scraped out, I'm going to put this in the lower right so people can see it's going to be a little small, but because I don't want to cover silver. It wasn't just it wasn't just one art sheet, guys. It wasn't just one picture. There's a couple places where these texture overlapped assets have been used, all from this one group. And so art does copy one another. I want to get that straight. We see that, Sid Mead, who did Mass Effect and whatever, there were multiple artists who, after Mass Effect was done, looked at that art style and said, that is, I like that. And they've come along after Mead died and they've done their own thing. But there weren't like names in the texture. And one of the ones in particular that shows up in that little image that I've got on the screen is they even have a grid of symbols, and even that's been moved over into Marathon. So it's like in 3 or 4 places. And it just seems like, in particular with Marathon, this sort of seems to be an issue that's popped up a lot with their art style, and especially when it comes to their particular art team and head lead, like artist, and sort of how it's all being run. and put into the game. And I don't know what Bungie does. You know, Bungie's already in trouble for the whole red, I can't remember what it's called, but the one level where the storyline that basically mimics the artist story or the writer's storyline. And they've been in, you know, I think they're taken to court for that. This game, that's why I put it as the thumbnail. It feels like hope is evaporating for this game. And I don't wish that, because normal developers, you don't wish that on normal developers. Like, you know, the normal Joe Blow guy who's just there, banging away, right? I don't like that they're brought up in this, but, you know, it's your boss that did it. So that kind of stuff sort of occurs. But it's pretty noticeable, guys. I mean, I don't know why it even took this long, because once you see the side by side, you're just like, damn. So I don't know if maybe these people really investigated before they put it up there, you know, before they basically reported that this was an issue, or not. I'm not quite sure, but it's pretty damning. The artists have basically stated, you know, we don't have the money to sue, or we don't really have the ability for us to get any kind of return on this. I think since it's in the game full, we don't know if, you know, I'm assuming the Marathon devs will remove it. The problem is if that's in your main art design, there's other things you need to do. But if you look at that picture, there's even a spot there where they take the full name and they move it over into their game. Like the word, the lettering, the name, the word.
Yeah.
You know, it's... So I should point this out too. Artists do that a lot of times, not only to protect themselves, but because it's sort of a water stamp. And I've done it in videos. And so sometimes you'll see me on YouTube, and this is all I'll say. You'll usually hear me say plagiarism's a fucker or whatever. That usually indicates I found somebody taking something. And just copying the art style isn't the same as this. And if somebody says words I say, or takes music and it sounds somewhat the same, it's not the same thing as this. It's usually when multiple steps occur in a line where you're like, okay, the design's the same, the font's the person's name is it. Okay, now we're screwed. Like, now you've fully done it. And so I won't report that even on mine unless I can really track that somebody has like taken the exact words, which happened recently. It's a thing that's occurring. But with words, it's one thing. With a texture in a game, I feel like there's no defense for it. And there shouldn't be. I'm not even saying there should be. I just feel like you're caught.
Because it's not even transformative. It's not like you took it as inspiration.
It's not the story thing. It's right. There you go.
Because there might have been a way to do it where you say, you know, you talk to the artist and you say, listen, we love this. We want to take inspiration and use a flavor of this in our game.
Right.
Beautiful. And, you know, it doesn't take that much money to compensate an artist for maybe some textures, or I don't know. It just feels like it's completely indefensible to not track this, like for a company.
Yeah. And dude,
right?
I mean, that is exactly what it feels like. The transformative thing is real, because if you like somebody's writing and you're a writer, you absolutely do pick up ideas from them and form whatever it is you form. And you usually, and it's a spoken word, so a lot of sentences start with the, you know, so we can't all say, well, I started my word with or my sentence with the. You can't. It's not the same thing. Like, this is just, it's in the game as a copy paste almost. And I don't know what they'll do. They say they're investigating it, but my assumption would be they have to go remove all those, and then they'll get even more scrutiny on it. It just feels like Marathon is up against an overwhelming tide of negativity, and weirdly enough, most of it is real or their fault. You know, not their fault as a people, but just how the game came together. But you look at it and you're just like, damn, these guys, they're not, it's not that they can't catch a break. They're not giving themselves one. You just keep diving in closer and go, oh shit, you know, they did this too? Like, what the hell? It's not the only time it's been done. I sort of do wonder how often, guys, that's been done in other games. And maybe at the time the artist didn't have a art station page. Right? Yeah, I've wondered about that before. Because, when we were growing up, even when we started this podcast, I'm pretty sure we've talked about overlapping art in the past in some way. And now I'm wondering, like, is it possible that some of these artists thought, oh, that game just looks a little like mine, or, artistically, you find out it was.
The resource is just there these days. I mean, just do a Google image search, right?
Yeah.
And you have like a cornucopia of options available to you for like to draw inspirations from, or whatever.
Even by the way, even if it wasn't easy, it's your due diligence to make sure that your assets are not, infringing someone else's property.
I do want to point out, there are bad actors in the world who are going to try to get away with everything, right? There is the possibility that somebody, who is just a random person who throws something up is like, oh, this is mine. Nobody thinks about it. But at some point, you would have assumed if they saw wording or whatever, they'd be like, what does that wording even mean? Or why does this say this? And then, the art director, whoever's in charge of that thematic feel of the entire game from start finish, sort of putting the visual stamp on the game and saying, this is why Destiny looks like Destiny. This is why Division looks like Division. Right. This is why Marathon looks like Marathon. It does seem pretty crazy that it got through that many people without somebody saying, like, why is this word that, like, is that a manufacturer? Maybe one of the robot manufacturers in the game, or, and ask the question, and then it pops up that, oh shit, this is actually real content from somebody else. Yeah, it sucks. And again, I'm wondering if it's happened in the past. Do we ever remember, ignoring Steam asset flips? Has there ever been a game? This is a harsh question to ask out of the blue. Has there ever been a game, though, that you guys have played and you're like, man, like this looks like a lot like blank other game? And I mean a lot. I don't mean like it looks like it, but has there been a game that maybe, and if it's not on the top of your head, that's probably good. But is there any on top of your head where you've maybe questioned in the past exactly if there was more than just inspired by?
I mean, it certainly felt like the Ubisoft open world Greek mythology game.
Immortal Phoenix Rising? Yeah,
like that felt very, very
Zelda.
Evoked very, very much Breath of the Wild. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it did. It did. I think they got away with not having, luckily copy paste in there, but I would agree with you. Yeah, for sure.
And another one similar to that was also the gacha game. What's it called?
Which one?
Was the big one
Zenless Zone Zero, or the one prior
before that?
Yeah. Okay. Darn it, I can't remember the name. But you felt that
you guys probably know the one I'm talking about. I'm just blanking on the name now. But yeah, that game was definitely kind of Zelda in a nutshell. Even the way like the grass looked. Genshin, thank you.
Yeah.
Genshin Impact.
Yeah, I would say when you look at these, like you can tell, especially inspired by, which would be like Phoenix Immortals, which is inspired heavily by Zelda, versus copy pasted. But there were games that I used to play that were 2D fighters that were Data East, and I can't remember the other company, but they were so close to Street Fighter that you were just like, I feel a little bit like maybe that's just Ken, but Blend is his name, or Jen,
or you got a sound, but like sounds that are like the same can,
same can sound. Yeah. People are saying Ubisoft games. It's like that's not what we're talking about, Christ. But you can definitely tell there's something about it when you look at Marathon 2. It's got a unique style, so the more unique it is, the more that if you see somebody else having created that prior, does that make sense? It's a little easier to go, wait,
it's also identifiable.
It's identifiable. Yeah, the more identifiable you are on the good part, the more you are on the bad part. So,
yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, man. I don't want to see anybody fail. I don't want to see normal devs fail, or people pay because somebody was a jackass. But Destiny, Lightfall had this. Then there was the other issue with the story. Lightfall, they distinctly took art that looked like almost like a pale figure in like a cloak, and it had some geometric signs. And then the artist posted and goes like, "Oh, they took inspiration from me. I appreciate it. It would have been nice to have had somebody say something." I looked at it. I'm like, yeah, there's enough there. There were some changes, but it was like, right. I don't think anybody made that, I don't think anybody randomly came to this new art without having seen that original. And then there's also subconsciously, right, where you might think it's yours. I think Johnny and I have joked about Avenged Sevenfold song, This Means War, and the Metallica song, which shall not be named, but you're like, damn, that's ridiculous. Like, you can literally sing each band's music.
It's almost like a tribute.
It really is almost like a tribute. Yeah. So we'll have to see where that goes. In June 2023, the Destiny 2 team admitted to using a fan's artwork in a cutscene without proper credit. They attributed this to an external vendor, mistakenly using the art as a reference, assuming it was official Bungie material. I will talk a tiny bit about what I've done and state that is more possible. That kind of, depending on how things are done, especially if it's cutscene or whatever, I can sort of see that occurring more than what we're seeing now. That makes a little bit more sense. And then they're currently involved in a legal dispute regarding the Red War campaign. Writer Matthew Kelsey Martino filed a copyright infringement suit alleging that Bungie copied elements from his unpublished work. Bungie has denied the allegations, seeking to have the case dismissed. The judge recently ruled the lawsuit can proceed, and I don't know if you guys remember, this is so bad, man. Bungie was like, hey, watch this 12-hour made by a YouTuber lore video as evidence, because they had vaulted the original stuff and said it's magically not there and available. And, smoke, fire. I'm just saying, at some point, you're like, what is going on? But hey, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So that's the news about Bungie, man. It, hopefully those people get, man, you didn't ask. So that's the problem. If you had asked, I assume some artists would be like, man, I'm excited as hell. Can you drop a link to my art station? But since they didn't ask,
credited, right?
Yeah. Like
if you're not going to ask, at least credit.
Dude. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like there's sort of, you're in a situation where you have to just delete it. And then what do? You delete it.
It blows my mind because even for
somebody, sorry,
even if you're someone like, imagine you're an evil person, you don't give a crap about anyone, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's still
no imagination needing to continue. I like this story.
Yeah. Like, so an average human being, like, it's in your best interest doing your job to avoid these types of things for all the reasons we've already mentioned. Like,
yeah,
that's actually just your job, you know? So it's not even that like people are evil or like this person did this out of malice. It's just also like sheer incompetence to let this happen.
I guess, guys, it also shows that because there are these art stations and the internet has a forever memory and you've posted your videos and your thumbnails, blah, 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 that most of these companies that do any kind of art stuff, the moment you start grabbing anything online, you just sort of need a role at the company whose entire job is to continually verify. Yeah. What'd you say? Sorry.
Whose job it is to vet it.
Yeah, vet it. Yeah, for sure. Like that. I think we're at that point where, yeah, we should have been at that point years ago, but that's sort of the way things are now. Moving on from there, some real quick notes. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 did their first DLC. That was yesterday. War Studios announced the first of 3 expansions planned, was launched Thursday the 15th, called Brushes with Death, and involves a skull, a secret, and a painter with a past in Henry's next journey.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody returning to the old Kingdom Come Deliverance DOS?
No, I tried to get returned to it with the hardcore mode, but much to my annoyance, the even though they deactivate the compass, they don't actually remove it. So the compass is still there. It just doesn't do anything in hardcore mode. It's just empty.
Oh,
It's just there as like an empty block on the top of your screen.
And you're offended by northeast, south, and west or something? Like, did that bother you that the compass was there?
No. I mean, the fact that it's there, yeah, that bothers me because it's just it obstructs. It obstructs the image. I just want it gone. Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
And now it doesn't even do the north, like with the hardcore mode. It doesn't even do the northwest. It's just empty. It's just an empty box on the top of the screen now.
Really?
Because they don't even remove the box. Yes.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying now. I was like, apparently Silver's offended by northeast, south, and west, but no. Now I get what you're saying. Yeah.
So it's like, why is it still there? Like you've removed the functionality for it, but you haven't removed the actual thing, and it boggles my mind that they've still left it there for whatever reason.
That's weird. That seems like
I don't get it.
Yeah, either do I.
Almost a bug, maybe.
That's almost a bug. Man. That's what I was saying too. Yeah, it's like when Assassin's Creed. I love that you can turn off parts of the HUD. Some games you've been able to turn it all off. But they have a bug, or did have a bug, I haven't gone back to this game, where sometimes in a game, if you turn the HUD off, the A button that interacts with items will disappear in the game. The game won't accept it anymore. So you'll go up. So
you couldn't interact.
You couldn't interact, and it was almost like it was almost like a photo mode that they forgot to call photo mode, even though it had a photo mode. So you would go, you turn everything off, you walk around, you'd be like, man, I can't really grab anything. Like, what's happening here? And then you turn it on and grab something. You'd be like, whoa, that's sort of a miss. Maybe it's been patched. But it's definitely happened where these, they've adjusted stuff. And Doom just came out. And I would say when you look at the speed thing, that's for sure sort of the same kind of situation where something is done 3/4 of the way. And you notice it more because it hasn't been done completely. It hasn't, like the compass hasn't, or the spot where the compass is hasn't been removed, which seems odd as shit. This DLC is $5.99, or apparently free with the expansion or gold edition. So there's a gold edition Kingdom Come, and there's an expansion pass for Kingdom Come. I guess I don't remember that. So
yeah,
okay. So I wonder what the expansion pass cost. Wonder how much extra the expansion pass cost. Because I guess I don't remember how much that one was. Fantasticals, $5 super chat says, happy weekend, guys. Any guesses on how long we have to wait for Death Stranding 2 for PC? I'm still trying to figure out whether I want it or not.
I think maybe a year and a half.
Yeah,
I would say.
I would agree with that. I think a year, right? A year makes sense for. I mean, some of these companies, he's by himself now, technically, so maybe he'll do it more quickly. But yeah, I would say a year seems fair, right? A year gets your console sales out of the way, lets you polish up with all these PC hardware situations that are going on with so many different cards, and sort of deliver it there. Wizard of Smoke, $2 super chat. What's up, Wizard? Hope you're doing well. Haven't talked to you in a little bit. Happy Friday, friendos, he says. Hope you're doing well, Wizard. It's nice hearing from you. Making sure you're still alive.
By the way, the price for the expansion pass is £25, so maybe $30.
30 for 3. So about. Okay, I guess it couldn't be if they said there were 3 DLCs and this one's $5.99. They must have a bigger DLC planned. Okay. So there's an expansion that you just buy through them. Okay. Interesting. I mean,
there's an expansion, and it also comes with other stuff like soundtrack, some like in-game, like other things, other rewards.
Can I point out something that I feel is a cheat? This is not fair to anybody, but you know how sometimes things just bother you? This bothers me. Go in to buy a game on Steam, and they're charging an extra $10 for the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I know.
I understand.
Let me explain why it bothers so that people are. It bothers me because a lot of times the music files are in there anyway, in a folder. Like the MP3 files are in there, and they're just giving you a Steam container for $10. Now, I think most companies know that now, so we're not seeing that as much. That just bothers the shit out of me. But I do want to say, obviously, as a composer-friendly channel, I want the composers. Fuck, I think that's, give whatever. I think that's great, but please verify that your music isn't already in the files, which it is a lot of times as, WMAs or MP3s or FLAC or something like that. I have seen that a couple times where I bought it and then went and realized, shit, I already had this. Or they sell you a PDF. What do they call, like the PDF? Well, those don't bother me so much. PDF guy, what are they called? Like making of. I'm sort of a sucker for making of, but I've seen on Steam recently, there's been a lot of those where you're going to get a game and it'll be like $10 extra get you like a PDF of art. I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I'm a big fan of art book stuff. I love that shit. Northern Berserker, Canadian money, the best of money. Moose Money, $13.99. More medieval simulators, the better, preferably in the early Middle Ages, 500 to 1100 AD. I mean, simulators. I'm thinking he's meaning Kingdom Come. I don't know how many games, just me being honest, I don't know how many games in that genre I would jump into.
I mean, Mountain Blade,
Chivalry. Not same time frame, but it's still general.
So
it's not even really
if it's a simulator, it would be like trying to survive a milieu of different infections and
broken
bones,
stub toes, where somebody dies from scratching a fucking elbow
so literally
on the way
just
to the door.
Living day to day.
At some point, these games are going to be like, okay, you have to hit the A button to breathe in, the B button to breathe out, and you're like, damn, seriously? The amoeba simulator, you got it. Yeah. But no,
go to your fruit stall and
and sell fruit, sell rotten fruit. I would agree, though. I would take a couple more. I don't know about you guys. I feel like if there was another game that was like Kingdom Come, it would be very difficult. Well, maybe that's not fair. Maybe not very difficult. But it's not a genre I need a ton of titles in, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I did love throwing all that heavy armor, though, on Henry and looking like a fucking idiot during all the cutscenes, man. Fucking big old head. I had the one with the giant, metal statue on his forehead, and he's talking
completely
during cutscenes.
In all occasions.
Yeah, it doesn't matter when you're wearing that. It's maybe if you're banging, it might be sort of cool, but, overall, it's an inappropriate helmet.
The helmet stays on.
The helmet stays on. This is my protection.
I would like to see maybe in very different settings, like medieval China.
See that? So would I. Well, maybe not China. I mean, I don't know what it'd be like back then. Well, probably.
What do they have going on? Like some rice. I don't know. I'm being an idiot. I have no idea.
I mean, you're not probably being too much of one. It depends on where the medieval simulator is, because it could be dire. It was already dire in Kingdom Come, really.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're doing some Zen stuff, I think, around that time.
1100 AD.
All the Zen stuff.
When was?
I think Ming Dynasty was medieval for China.
Ming Dynasty, yeah. I mean, obviously, I say this now, but if the game pops and it's fun, I'll play it.
Or late medieval.
Been wrong too many times seeing a trailer and thinking, this doesn't look good, and then you play it and you're like, oh shit, this is actually quite nice. It happens. Doom happens. Let's see. Moving on from there. We're moving on from Kingdom Come. Let's talk about Sony for a second. Sony announced their financials, and they stated they may pass on the tariffs to customers and is considering U.S. manufacturing and hardware and the rise of a price there. They've already raised the price outside of the United States, and anybody in chat, anybody here, whatever, you can look those price increases up. I don't remember what they were, but I do believe that these companies are talking about the tariffs and stuff. I think it was Johnny. Maybe Johnny wasn't the person, but somebody in chat, they were like, so would they lower it if the tariffs went away? I was like, come on. No.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Like these, I just don't, at least not in this overarching way they're doing it here. But I would not be surprised if the United States gets the same increases as, what was it?
So was the increase on consoles or also
I think increase
games?
Was everywhere, consoles and games, but it was outside the United States, if I remember right. This was a year ago, maybe? Something like that. Sort of hard to remember if you already own the system, right? Like
Right, I'm checking now, and you can get a PS5 Pro for around £670, which is maybe a little over
that's over
$700.
Yeah.
Like 720 maybe bucks.
Yeah, that's consoles are getting there, man.
But wait, are we getting taxed on the digital games too by the tariffs?
Taxed on the tariffs?
And I just mean, like, are the prices of digital games being affected by the tariffs?
Yeah, those prices will go up too. Yeah, for sure.
But shouldn't that only affect physical goods?
Well, technically, but that's not how it ever works. I think Nintendo was the only one, right, who stated that, or they didn't state, but I think Nintendo's, isn't it correct, the Switch 2 prices for digital are like a little cheaper? I think they had stated that. I could be right. Yeah.
Okay.
So yes.
I like the idea of digital being $10 to $15 cheaper. I think that
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that's really fair to be like, hey, we're not doing packaging, right?
You're technically getting less of a thing.
You are,
like, quite literally.
Not only that, Johnny, but let's say we lived 10 years ago when games actually came on their fucking CDs. You might be able to play the physical one. You might get something. And with the digital one that you buy today, you know for a fact you won't be playing that online, at least for a particular amount of time, because certification is going to go away if you lose connection. Depends on the game and how they handle the copy protection. But yeah. Moving on from there. Oh, so anyway, so that was the only thing that they had stated. All these companies did their financials pretty interesting. Ubisoft did theirs. Microsoft did theirs. Sony's was the most interesting simply because they said that. Here's something else interesting for one person, and that's him, the person who said it. Kojima is reflecting on Death Stranding 2 feedback. He did an interview with Edge Magazine, and Kojima expressed surprise at the overwhelmingly positive internal feedback. He noted a desire that he wanted more controversy for his games. So basically what he stated was when he was testing Death Stranding 1, playtesters, about 4 out of 10 playtesters liked it, 6 out of 10 disliked it, and for Death Stranding 2, not a single person at all has disliked it. Humble brag.
So
sure.
It's a full glaze at the moment.
It's a self-glaze. Put your feet up, self-glaze. It is what it is. I thought it was interesting because we have seen a lot of positive about it. I'm more interested in it for sure. Because
definitely.
of what
the previews look excellent, but we always have to take them with a grain of salt.
Has a Kojima game ever not looked excellent?
No.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think they've always showed pretty well. Yeah,
they have always showed well. Okay, let me think.
Yeah,
he did Snatcher on the
outside
Sega
of
CD.
There were a couple of stinkers maybe in there, like Metal Gear Survive and Ground Zero.
Survive was not
Survive
Kojima.
was the side game, Johnny. Luckily
it wasn't them?
It was not.
Okay.
No. Right. So there you go.
That was Konami, like the publisher, doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Gotcha.
Not Kojima.
Yeah.
So there you go. Right?
Yeah.
They don't show. Yeah. Don't think there's ever been a Kojima game where we've looked
because
at
even
it
Death
and been
Stranding.
Like, yeah. Oh,
I think
Stranding
you were before
yes.
you played it, you were pumped to try it.
Dude, Death Stranding, they say is in America. Fuck that. That's Scotland or Ireland. That's not America. Whatever. We can ignore that.
Iceland or something.
If I could find a place that looked like that, I would live there currently in America. I love the location and the look of Death Stranding. I think Death Stranding still looks phenomenal.
It's very Nordic.
It's very Nordic. Dude, come on. Yeah, I'll tell you, it's not Arizona. I'll tell you that much. But
right.
Yeah, man. I don't think they've ever looked bad. I think his games, he's always been top notch. Even the demo, that PT demo, the horror demo game that he did. He's got the he's got the graphic chops and sort of knows how to deliver it. And it's the Decima engine, which is Horizon Zero Dawn. It's Gorilla's engine, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's always looked amazing.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, and they look like real people. I think that's the other thing I really like is when you see them, whether it scares the shit out of you or not, they look like real people. I mean, they do such a great job. Norman Reedus looks that beat up in real life. I love him.
Yeah, but true. He makes a point to look as beat up as possible.
Dude, Norman I love that guy. I've loved him since, admittedly, I'm sure people saw him prior to this, but I think Blade 2 was the first time I saw him.
Was he in that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he turns bad guy, but he was their mechanic. And at the time he was sort of hefty. But he already had the really thick eye bags and he already had that rough. Always looks like they're on the edge of a really bad heroin addiction, like just coming out of it. They still got the itch at night, but they're working through it.
Because I saw him for the first time in The Walking Dead, and that's how he looked. He made a point to look like that.
Well,
so that's how I knew him from the start.
Boondock Saints is another one. You see him in that, which is one of the best movies. Like, that is such a great movie. But him and his brother show up, and you're like, damn. Like, one of those guys is like 20 years older than the other. I love, dude, he's such a good actor, man. Yeah, I'm excited for Death Stranding too. But I thought that self-glaze was funny, Yeah, too many people like my stuff.
I mean, self-aggrandizement has always been a Kojima thing. He put his own music playlist as a collectible in Death Stranding.
What? Did he?
Yes.
You mean
this is the music I like to listen to.
This is like Kojima's jam.
That was a collectible.
And it was a collectible. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. That's interesting, man. I mean, I don't know, because
there was also there was a certain tongue-in-cheek greatest game ever and stuff in the way it talked about itself in that game in the collectibles, sort of the meta commentary there. That was also very very amusing.
Okay, I gotta go check this out. I didn't know that. Yeah, but like I said, people I've talked to who played it liked it. Maybe not to the level of this, which does seem, but definitely it seems like this game is going to hit if you're a fan. I'm more interested because all you guys who have been fans were very happy with the ending of 1 and didn't feel it needed to continue, which caused me to be more interested, because I was like, whoa, if everybody I'm talking to who liked it isn't super interested in the sequel because they're sort of like, that to me is interesting, from a narrative standpoint of okay, so how's it going to surprise those guys? And will that surprise maybe by my, my excitement for it? Yeah. So that's coming out, what, June, right? June or July?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, late June.
End of June.
That one came fast too, right? It seems like we thought we knew it was coming, and then boom, and it's maybe coming. A year of PR.
Yeah.
And then it pops. Speaking of PR, so GTA 6 delayed. We all know it's delayed. You can't escape the news that it delayed. But I did want to talk about something. So now that we know it's delayed, there's been all kinds of discussion. There's websites, GameIndustry.biz. They did some stuff. We saw the typical, I guess, journalists talking about it, talking about how much the delay is going to hurt gaming. And their estimate is that up to 700,000 less consoles will be sold this year because GTA 6 has been delayed. And I don't think that's unfair, because I think what they really mean is PS5 Pros, because that's the system. This is, that's the only pro system we have currently. I think 700,000 is probably pretty fair, but I want to point out the positive, because we talked about the negative last week. I think it's awesome because there's a lot of games that would have got lost, and I think this fall probably is going to have some surprises. You've got games like Outer Worlds 2, other games that are going to have just a little bit of breathing room that are ready. Yep. And then the people who are farther out already don't know, is that the exact time? So moving that might be a little easier than, let's say, if it was solidified last week or the week before. So this fall, I'm actually quite excited for some of these titles to get a little extra juice, a little extra coverage in the fall, because GTA would have eaten up, just the PR cycle.
Absolutely. It would have left like a crater around it.
Yeah. I will say this. Imagine you moved out of this fall because you went on the rumors that it was coming. And you moved to what is it, May of next year? Yeah, it was May. They announced it's going to be May of 2026. Imagine you moved and you're like all excited. You're like, hey, we're going to be a couple months out. And then they turn around and like, no, we've moved to May. And you're just, shit. But at least that's far enough out that you could probably make some adjustments. I think it's pretty exciting. I think this fall's, man, I can't feel like I'm talking into a void because I'm not really, there's some games that haven't really been announced as for coming this fall, but there's some stuff that certainly I'm hearing that it's going to, and I'm excited to see those games just get that space is all I'm saying. I do understand why people are nervous about not buying consoles, but this is going to sound weird. If you want to buy a console because of GTA 6, is that as good for the industry as people who already have the consoles but are buying the games? Because there's more space in fall. So let's say a person in fall, they're not going to buy $600 worth of games in fall. But let's say they buy 100. If you get a bunch of people buying $100 of games through 3 or 4 month period, is that better than 700,000 new console owners? I think people would say no, because those new console owners are coming in, but I'm not quite sure how many new ones are coming in versus people who are upgrading. Does that make sense?
Right.
So I guess it's impossible to know, but anything in this fall, we're going to do the Dark Knight in a second, but actually I won't ask that. We'll move on.
We'll save it.
Yeah, we'll grab those games. The other thing I wanted to talk about real quick, Jade Raymond departs from PlayStation. So Jade Raymond, she was original executive director, producer, I believe, for Assassin's Creed, yeah. And then left, went to EA, Motive Studios, which stopped the start. They were going to do the Star Wars game. She worked a little bit on Star Wars Battlefront 2, I believe, and moved on from there. Went to Google during Stadia, which is sort of the combo breaker in all this. Which is crazy, but just
strange
recently,
move there.
Strange move. But it is Google, right? You have no clue what they were paying, or what the hope was. But she was doing, what was it? Fair Games, which was supposed to be for Sony and got delayed, and it's delayed into spring. And I guess after the playtest and all that stuff in the last couple of weeks, she's stepped away and has moved on from there. The only reason I bring it up is because Fair Games, the rumors, the stories, the reporting was that it's got a bit of a issue like Concord did, and a bit, the service game thing. And so her leaving and stuff makes me wonder if we're going to see that in spring. And now, spring 2026, guess who you're going against? GTA.
Damn.
Yeah, double damn. Right? Double damn. You're like, hey, we're gonna work on this service game, but we're gonna work on a little longer. We're gonna do spring, and then GTA's like, guess who else is gonna be in spring?
Yeah, I was joking the other day that the next Horizon game is aiming for the GTA release
for May.
Those guys always have like the worst possible.
Yeah.
They had like Elden Ring next to them.
It was Zelda and Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Pretty rough release launch, man. Pretty rough. Let's see. Moving on from there. So anyway, so Jade left. No information on what she's doing next. But she had a big hand in basically the really cool stories I've talked about on the podcast. There were some development stories about getting that first Assassin's Creed made. As somebody who's liked a lot of those games in general, really happy that series was made. She's one of the ones who got that thing off the ground, got extra money for it and stuff like that. So hats off to her.
Hopefully she was also one of the first female developers that really got a lot of mainstream attention.
Yeah. From gamers though, right?
Yeah, well, gamers, and especially gaming media.
Well, that's true.
Broadly.
That's true. Yeah, I had the immediate misfortune of doing a live stream where she was doing I believe it was Stadia's announcement. And it was just instant, man, in the live stream. She walked out. Woohoo! I was like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Like a bunch of guys at a bar. It was sort of funny. Next thing I want to talk about real quick is the Nintendo hardware has basically been solidified. Digital Foundry's talked about it. Johnny and I think talked about this a couple days ago in voice chat. Could be wrong. I thought we did. But anyway, long story if we didn't. looks to be somewhere around a mobile RTX 2050. I've seen some other cards sort of being bandied about, but of course it'll be specific to, those games will be optimized for that specific hardware.
Yeah.
The question, though, that I have for you guys, I feel like Nintendo's a little like Sony right now, where they have amazing games, but lately there hasn't been a bunch. And so I'm sort of wondering, like, it feels to me like the Switch 2 is missing 2 killer titles, maybe. I'd say 3, but I think that's unfair. I don't think we've had 3 for a long time. But I would say 2 killer Nintendo titles. They've got Donkey Kong, which I personally am interested in, but I feel like that when that game comes, or when that system comes out, there really isn't that killer title for the. I'm not saying that it won't sell. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think Mario Kart will do maybe better than we expect.
You think so?
I think so.
Absolutely. I think Mario Kart's a cornerstone for them.
Yeah. I think just because of the nature of the game, it's like, okay, how much new can you expect in a Mario Kart? At the end of the day, you're doing races, right?
Right.
But what I have seen looks really promising, and I think this one might really hit.
So the one title. That's like
so got that. Yeah, Donkey Kong. Still a question mark, but looked interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then honestly, like we talked about, the enhanced
Metroid
version.
is still slated for this year.
Oh, yeah.
Metroid 4.
Yeah, that too. I was just going to say, like, the enhanced versions of already existing games might be some of the most exciting as well for some people.
Here's the reason why I'm bringing this up. It's old hardware. The equivalent of old hardware. It's obviously got ray tracing and all that stuff, but it's been so long in development. I just wish their planning was a little better, so we did have some cornerstones. Feels weird that it's been this long in development, and when it releases, we still, we're not looking
down the barrel of like you could maybe pick.
I guess I feel like for me, it feels like we have more than we did when the Switch 1 launched. When Switch 1 launched, it was basically just Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, but that was a big one.
Just
that
Breath
was
of the Wild might be the most deballing sentence ever made, though. Come on.
It's like
it was just Tory Black at my house. It's
shattering.
Like, okay, that doesn't. But I do get what you're saying. I agree with you. But I guess what I'm saying is also the competition, the current economy. We're just it's just a weird situation right now, and I just think it would be nicer to get 2 or 3.
Mario Kart. I think Mario Kart ties into that exceptionally well because Mario Kart is a title that really plays well with the social media, like with just brief Twitch or brief Instagram or clips or TikTok clips or whatever it is. It's very memeable. It's an exceptionally memeable game on social media.
But again, it's just one. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not dissing on that game. I'm saying if that is a cornerstone, if we call that I'm just saying I really do think in today's economy and today's market and the competition, 2 or 3 would be much better than just a Mario Kart. I'm not dissing on Mario Kart. I just want to make sure that.
No, I think you're right. Unquestionably, it would be better, but I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue for them.
Probably not.
That it isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw a similar situation with the launch of PS5. I think it was around November it came out, and there was maybe just one single game. I think Demon's Souls Remake was the only one at the time that was exclusive. And then you got Ratchet and Clank sometime later. But that was a pretty big window of time between the first and the second games that came out exclusively on the console.
Yeah. However, again, what I'm pointing out is that when the PlayStation 5 launched, it was considered the most powerful console. Switch is considered the least powerful console, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is it's the least powerful console, and
and it doesn't have
it
necessarily.
Yeah, so I am agreeing. I actually do think the power, it doesn't necessarily sell, but it promises. And here, I know people think, that Mario Kart is like, it apparently much bigger than I ever assumed it was, because you guys talk it up, and whenever I mention this, people are like, but what about Mario Kart? It's like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think the world has changed. And I think that we are in such a weird time. By the way, so that I point this out, I'm not necessarily saying they won't sell out or anything like that. I'm just saying that the competition and the drive to get one requires different steps than it did in the past. And, there's always going to be your Switch fan. Those guys bought the classic or whatever that was, that piece of shit, like the mini ripoff or whatever it was. Like, there's always somebody, right, who's going to buy a Slinky coated in fucking gold. Like, but when you look at the normal consumer, I'm just wondering where it places it for us as like just us, because you guys know I'm actually a Switch 2 fan. I'm very excited for it to see a specific hardware from them. But as a person who is excited to see it, I'm also like, damn. It just like, how did we get this many years between the two hardware without you guys having a Zelda ready? How did we get this many years without a Mario ready? And what does that mean for the future? Like, does it mean there's nothing?
I think, okay, my instant thought, what it means is that maybe 1 year from now or 2, we get a special edition Switch 2 coming out with the game. So think if it's Zelda.
Right.
No, it will be the same console, but with a different
skin
tint, a different skin, like we saw with Animal Crossing and stuff.
Okay.
And that sold like, hotcakes. That's the expression.
It did.
Yeah. Is it hotcakes? No.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which is funny.
But I mean, there are a lot of similar expressions, but hotcakes is a popular one.
No, but look at how long hotcakes haven't been a thing, and we still use it. It's like, who has pancakes?
I can't remember the last time I bought a hot.
When was the last time you were like, dude, you know what I really want right now? A hot cake. Not only that, all the people in there would be like, does that mean something questionable? No. But yeah,
it definitely sounds.
It sounds very questionable.
Dubious. Yeah.
I am excited for it. I do want to see it. I just, it's not a cheap device. And I do. I wish there was I think it's more Mario, and I'm not a Mario fan. I'm just saying for that title to catch on, moving on from there, we got a question. Oliver Basket says, what's a scientific fact or theory that blew your mind and you wish more people knew about it in context? A scientific fact or theory?
I mean, there are so many. I mean, I guess one of the earliest ones I remember is the notion of infinity for the universe, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you wrap your head around that?
And did you ever joke with your friends when they said, you're wrong times Googleplex? And you'd say, no, you're wrong, Googleplex plus 1. And they were like, you were wrong, infinity.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, yeah.
You know what I mean? Tease with your friends.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
And then you're like, well, you can't do infinity plus 1. You go, damn it.
Yeah.
You got me.
I just did it. So
you got me, you son of a bitch. Dude, yeah, that was a mind blower when you were a kid. When somebody described, or infinite universes or whatever. You'd be like, what? Wait, what?
Yeah.
And like I joked about in the review, if there's infinite universes, there's a universe out there without infinite universes. And that's when I was like, okay, yeah. That's what I said in the Doom review. I was like,
okay.
Yeah. What? But let's see. What would I mean? Infinity's a good one. I would say Laplace's Demon is probably the one that like bothers me to my core whenever I because it's not really, what is that? I guess you'd say that's a theory, right? That's more of a thought experiment.
More of a thought experiment.
But I hate it. I don't like it at its very core for some reason. Probably because I'm so I like the idea of free thought and free will and all that. What about you, Johnny?
I think it's always been the Fermi paradox and the physics around that, where they have an equation, right, to kind of estimate the likelihood of life out there, and there's always the question, where are they? And then there are kind of like different directions you can go. Like one where it's like, well, life is just happens very infrequently. It's very hard for it to meet the conditions for life to generate, or life is easy to generate, but there's always some type of filter where like civilizations get to a certain
shit
that's scary.
That's
like
scary.
Civilizations get to a certain point where they basically self-destruct, right? And they never make it to the like galactic version. And whichever one of those you kind of look at, and all the other alternatives, like no life, lots of life, but we'll never know them. All of those always are just really depressing to me.
Yeah, they end up in a sad
just kind of helpless,
right?
Yeah, it's just sad emoji all around.
Yeah, I would agree with that one for sure. The Jostler $5 super chat. I popped in last week for 30 seconds to see what was up, and Carrick was talking about slurping on Snickers dick veins. Sadly, I couldn't stay. Yeah, that is too bad. You didn't get to hear us talking about our favorite candy bars. Did sound a little dirty, but trust me, it was just us talking about snacks. I loved me some Snickers, man. It actually, it actually, yeah, I guess it would be my favorite candy bar. Thank you, by the way, for that question. That was a good question.
Do you feel like they've depreciated in modern times?
Snickers?
No, Snickers, but really like all candy bars in general.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
For sure.
I 100% agree, because I don't know if it's the way we eat now and that there's so many choices or whatever, but I feel like
I think they've definitely changed the composition as well, like and the ingredients.
Yeah. They it's probably less cancer causing, right? But whatever it was tasty at the time. Yeah, no, I agree with that. But I also just think the way we eat is pretty different. That a candy bar used to be a snack, or it used to be a surprise, or it used to be a treat, or whatever your candy bar is. I guess maybe it's age, but I don't really need a treat anymore. So the same thing happened. I think I've talked to you about this, Silver, but Blizzards from Dairy Queen. Dairy Queen Blizzards were like the favorite thing when I was a kid. I went 20 years without having one. And when I had one, my brain didn't do the same dopamine dump that I used to have when I was a kid, where you're like, holy fuck, this is going to be amazing. And instead I was like, oh, yeah. And people say the same thing as you. Maybe they changed the...
Yeah, I'm not really as fond of candy bars anymore in general. I don't find they taste very, very good anymore.
Yeah, I don't really eat them too much. I mean, like my wife will buy one randomly, like a Three Musketeers or something like that, which I do sort of like. I do sort of dig, maybe just because I love the Three Musketeers, and may completely be just because I like fiction. I have no clue, but yeah, no, I would agree with that. But thank you very much for the super chat and the discussion about giant Snickers dick veins. Moving on from there, let's talk about the Dark Knight game of 2025. So I was telling these guys, with GTA moving, I was just wondering if anybody thought there was a game not out yet that might, do we see anything on the indie scene or AAA or AA scene that we feel maybe has a little bit of an it factor so far, or the possibility of that, and maybe will be the big game of the year? I think Expedition is current, but I'm talking about what isn't out. Sorry, go ahead. What were we going to say?
I was looking at the list, and there was actually one that caught my eye.
What's that?
That I haven't seen any scuttlebutt about at all, really. It's the Marvel 1943, The Rise of Hydra.
Amy Hennig, right?
Yeah, Amy Hennig, yeah.
Hennig,
exactly.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Dude, that's a good choice.
Doing that one.
That's a good choice.
Could be really interesting. I haven't seen anything from that game whatsoever. Other than the scuttlebutt that it's supposedly an action-adventure title where you have 4 playable characters, including Captain America, and a version of the Black Panther. But other than that, I don't know what it's going to be. But that could be something.
Dude, that's
especially given Hennig's pedigree.
Yeah, where the story will. I'm not saying the stories are bad in Superman or Spider-Man. I like them, but I feel overall has a very good pedigree for you know, for being able to write those really good games.
On narrative structure, yeah, grasp on narrative structure for sure.
Very much so. What about you, Johnny? Is there any?
Yeah, so I think the game that's gonna stand out the most when we look back is gonna be Ghost of Yotai.
Okay. Yotai. Yeah.
So that's like October 2nd. And they've been sort of quiet, like they're just kind of working away at it. We haven't seen too much. But I have a feeling, also just based on the prior game, you know, Ghost of Tsushima, I think still was one of the best games of that type that I've played. Sure, it had some issues, but damn, it was, you know, it was awesome. It was an amazing game. So I think this one, and those guys have been just so consistent too with their games that I have really high expectations for this one.
Why do you guys think? Do you think it's because we have already played Ghost and that's why it's not really in that heavy zeitgeist yet? Because I feel like Ghost originally was by now. Many months prior, people were seeing it, seeing the web.
Yeah, I was.
Does that make sense? Do you think it's just because we know in general the format that's going to arrive in, so it's more just? Do you think people are just checking it off as I'm for sure getting it, and that's why we're not hearing anything, or?
It's a good question.
Or is it because it's been a strong year? Because I actually think it's been a somewhat strong year when you look at just in general.
Very strong.
I just also haven't seen as much marketing.
I agree.
No,
as they did for the first one. The first one sort of made itself visible as well to help sort of generate that hype, I think.
Right. No, I agree with all that. I really honestly
it
hadn't
is strange,
thought about that
isn't
one.
it? Yeah. Because I was looking at games, and when I saw that one, I almost had forgotten that it was coming out this year. Compared to, let's say, Death Stranding, like people won't shut up about the game, right? There's like previews and there's all this stuff. And granted, it's closer to coming out, so it makes sense. But still, I feel like a lot of these other big games have had a lot of PR way in advance. Whereas that one, that's why I thought like Dark Knight is maybe one that just isn't being talked about much, but I think it's going to be.
That is exactly what you hit. That's exactly what I was hoping, is that something that it's sort of either shocking or you look at it and you're like, wow, why is nobody talking about it? Either why is in we sort of know what it's going to be like Ghost, or if you see something out there and you're like, holy shit, you know, I can't believe it. And somebody was just going to mention mine. Dodger mentions The Alters and Mafia.
Yeah.
I do think that The Alters, I can talk about what I played, and I've said it before, but I'm gonna say it again because this is something that surprised me. That preview I played was a year ago. That was just, there was no issues with it. I mean, which is not what my experience is. That game played like it was done, and that they had cut off some ends, so I couldn't see the done part. I could only see the part that they wanted us to experience. And fuck, man, if that entire game was able to hit that narrative style of like bringing a clone back at a weird decision point in your life, and now you're both fighting over who's the real, like there was some stuff in there I was like, holy fuck. Now who knows if it'd be a billion seller or whatever, but for me personally, that was
because those games that aren't, let's say, like super high detail, like graphics and stuff, sometimes they just won't have the same like selling power.
Looks matter.
Just because of the looks. Yeah. I mean, I thought it looked great, but of course, like within its scope. So it's not the same when you compare it to like a Cyberpunk or whatever.
I mean, yeah. I feel like the last so I gave you guys the list of the last Dark Knight games, like the last ones that people knew might be interesting, but then turned out to be way bigger, like Disco. I remember I was going through that PR period and we were talking about it, but I mean, let's be honest. If you had asked me prior if I thought a game that was that deep and that much text would have been sort of that much of a game changer, where now you have companies still saying they're making a Disco-like game.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have ever believed that, just because I just didn't think it would catch on. But the other one was Plague Tale, I'm not saying Plague Tale is even the best game because I don't think it is, but I do think that those AA Hellblade one it had less gameplay than Plague Tale, but it still was like, whoa, what is that? I think with Plague Tale, I still remember covering that and going like, holy shit, this is special. Like this is in its core little whatever genre it's hitting, it's special. It's not a fucking extraction shooter. It's not whatever. It's just like
Guardians of the Galaxy for you as well, right?
Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, but it had its IP name. But I honestly, I would actually let me take that back because I think the IP name I thought was going to hurt it because we had seen other games not
the comparison
do well with the
maybe?
superhero. Yeah. So I would, it definitely was stunning to see,
especially because that game came sort of on the back end of
Avengers.
Yeah.
That's the one I was talking about when I was like, others not doing so well.
Yeah.
Do you think that Expedition 33 qualifies for a Dark Knight?
Yeah, but I was saying
this year.
I was saying because he hadn't. I wanted to get us say today. That way, none of us had played it yet. And so we were all in the same wavelength.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the Dark Horse I've played is unquestionably Dynasty Warriors Origins.
Okay, so I normally wouldn't agree with you, but because it's fucking Dynasty Warriors. But weirdly enough, everybody I've talked to who's played that game, from a fun standpoint, really likes it. Penty loves it. Like he's been in chat a couple dozen times streaming that. So, I mean, it's hard to. Yeah, it's Dynasty Warriors, but I mean, there's a lot of people who are fucking all over that game. So,
what do you think about Crimson Desert? Assuming it comes out this year, which is not clear yet.
I'll take a pass.
Could that be the next?
That's a tricky one because that's a game that got a lot. It's gotten a lot of coverage through its development time, but that coverage has sort of petered out leading up to release, I guess, for me, certainly, or from my perspective, where actually I've heard less and less of it the closer we've got to its release.
They've shown some long, like, gameplay and different things, videos.
Right.
Like recently they showed what they called a performance discussion or something in IGN.
I think that was just IGN watching a video, by the way.
Okay, yeah, that checks out. There wasn't a lot of detail there at all for something with performance in the name. But
at least
the more I see of the game, it's something. And the more I see of the game, I think it's not going to leave anybody indifferent, to put it that way. So it might be flawed in many ways, but I think it's going to be something special. Carrick doesn't want to comment.
I don't want to comment. I've already stated what I thought, and what I've seen in the past looked just awesome. But I personally feel there has been a resetting of the expectations for that game in some of the videos I've seen lately, which sort of makes me worry when you start seeing people say, well, the combat isn't this. Make sure you know it's not this, it's not that. And it's like, okay, so I got to reset, because that's a core gameplay element. And what we see, people who've played it are like, whoa, that's nothing like, it plays nothing. And they weren't really in love with it. So it's made me rejigger my idea of like what that game would feel like as you experience it, because that is one of the major things you do is combat. So, but what I saw of it, I'm super excited. I saw I've seen the videos for it. I watched a little bit of the performance one, but it was pretty generic. It was just, it sort of felt like we just want to do a video. So it was like, okay, whatever. And like Silver said, it sort of died out, which makes me then also go, what does that mean? And it doesn't always mean anything, but
no, it could just mean they're buckling down for developing.
It's exactly right. Yeah.
For the final run.
Yeah. So I thought that some of the bosses looked fucking phenomenal in that game. There was a turtle earth boss that the guy was like flying around. I will say there was a lot of mechanics though. He was like flying around, also climbing, also fighting a little bit like a Lord of the Rings game. And I remember going, damn, there's a lot going on in that. Is that going to be one of those games where it doesn't all come together. But what I saw of it, I thought, it looks awesome. I will also say, the more we see of it, the less special something becomes, if that makes sense. So the more I've been seeing of it, the more I'm starting to like go, that looks a little rough. And instead I'm like, can we just get the fucking thing so I can play it, please? Can we just,
Yeah.
But it looks good. And those guys, hey, no character generator in the game made by the company who could sell their character generator, and that's it. Black Desert's character generator is phenomenal, and Crimson Desert doesn't have one. Yeah. And I was like, oh damn, what a missed opportunity for that one. But yeah, I'm stoked for it. We'll have to see. People are saying Kazan sort of fell off. Kazan. Oh, Last Berserker. Either one of you guys.
First Berserker.
First Berserker. You did that,
I
right,
liked
John?
it. Yeah, okay. I liked it. I didn't beat it. I think it got a bit samey, and it also suffered from not very inspired level design, but it stood pretty firmly on its combat legs, pretty much. That's how I would describe it.
And they were good.
Yeah, good combat chops, very cool system, and I would say a nice iteration on the Souls formula, which is like integrating combos and stuff into it.
Okay.
So I want to see more of that, but definitely got a bit samey for me, and I ended up dropping it.
I've seen Crimson come up in the chat. I saw Altars. I saw Borderlands 4. Borderlands 4, got to admit.
Ooh, yeah, that could be a lot of fun.
It could be. It could be. We'll have to see. Dune. People are talking about Dune. I think Dune's covered so much. I think we know what that is, at least.
Mm-hmm. The more I think about it, I think I might really enjoy that one. We'll have to see.
Dune?
How polished it is. Yeah. Because I am a sucker for base building. And I like the aesthetic of Dune, right? Like I like the books and stuff. So being in there, getting eaten by some sandworms occasionally. Pretty cool.
Killing people to use them as batteries for water.
Yeah, right.
Great. No trees to be chopped. Another bonus. Think about it.
Yeah, what I think, Johnny, is that something is going to be replacing trees. And by the way,
you're punching rocks instead of trees. You're punching rocks.
Hey, listen, I loved Pacific Drive, which replaced.
Yeah.
I had to point that out because I knew somebody was going to come after me because I bitched about it so much. But I was like, listen, I for sure felt burned out on that kind of gameplay, but just the fiction of sawing up cars was enough for me to buy off on it. So completely could buy off on. I just feel like Dune and deserts. It's so boring. It's so I need to see it to see the location. Yeah. I mean, deserts in any game is always hard for me to, to dive into. By the way, I want to ask you something, Johnny. You said base building's one of your fave things. I have seen that, noticed that. However, to call you out on something, why didn't I see you in fucking Assassin's Creed Shadows like Penty is, who's still building a base as of last Saturday in Shadows after beating it? What was wrong with Shadows? What was the problem?
I didn't find that it was base building at all.
You felt it was placing things down?
It was just placing these things. So what I like about base building is that it's to some extent freeform, and they try at least, right, with differing levels of success to have an engaging system. Like, for example, Sons of the Forest had a system where you chopped your logs and then you could chop them at angles and like do cool things with like how you chop the logs. And so you could like do a ramp or, do lots of different little intricate things with that. So that was cool. And the idea of even building a basic hut with those, I know it sounds silly.
I'm thinking about the raft now, but continue.
To me,
you could make that hut very individual, right?
Sorry?
You could make that hut very individual, right?
Yes, and because of it's like, it's a project. So I get into it, and to me, it's like, dude, I have this project now, which is I'm building this hut and there's a whole narrative around it now in my head. And especially if I happen to have a friend to play with, some of those games can be super special because now you're undertaking these projects together. And a lot of times your friend will fuck it up, right? They'll have a completely different idea of what you're trying to do.
It's suspiciously reminding me of you and Abzy trying to sell me on that fucking Raft game after I'd already played it and you guys were trying to talk that up.
I'm telling you, there's a dome you can go into with cool stuff.
Yeah, well, okay. So I did want to ask you on Shadows, but I understand. I get what you're saying. I think that's very fair. Doom,
because in Shadows, it's basically just templates you're putting down.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Templated stuff.
Admittedly, I do have to give them one defense, which is that is true, but you can also change them a ton cosmetically. And I have seen people do some crazy shit where mine looks terrible. And I'll go see theirs with
I think that was my frustration too, Carrick, is that I couldn't make mine look cool.
I couldn't either.
Like I couldn't make them, I couldn't make them connect in a way that made sense.
Exactly.
So it's also partially on me, right? Like skill issue. Couldn't figure out like how to make it look good. Yeah.
Mine was built for effect. Like, was it shelter? Check mark. Yes. That was it. That was as good as I got.
It's like, technically we do have the building. So
and I painted a couple walls or whatever. And I was like, okay. And, it was like, yes, I can do that. And then I moved on because I couldn't make mine. No matter what I did, it never looked, well, certainly like Penty's. Well, Penty's isn't the greatest. I saw somebody else streaming it a couple like a week ago, and it was sort of magnificent. Do you know what it reminds me of, guys? The hidden part. It's not hidden, but the hidden reflection of artistry that you can do in Hogwarts. In that fucking
it's absolutely like Hogwarts,
bro.
Yes,
I thought my room looked great, and it was dog shit. I was like, I was really excited about how my room looked. And now you see people even without hacks where you're just like, what the fuck is going on? That ability for somebody to artistically put those pieces together. And the ability of a game to deliver that when, let's be honest, 99.9% of the game had nothing to do with that. You didn't even have to engage with it. And still they had animals running around and, all kinds of crazy shit. Christopher says, will you be reviewing Blades of Fire? 50-50.
I think that was a mobile game, no?
No, Blades of Fire is the game that I covered in the games list. That's I guess, forging game where you forge your weapons.
Oh,
yeah, the blacksmithing game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Magical Blacksmith, the game where you run around like Kratos, and for some reason he doesn't use the best weapon he's got, which is his fucking hammer. Because if you could, I would not forge a single thing. His hammer looks awesome. I'd just be like, let's just use the hammer, dude. What are you doing? But instead, he forges piece of shit swords with the damn amazing looking hammer. Imagine using Mjolnir to fucking make some horseshoes and a sword, and not thinking of just using that as your. It's sort of just fun. It's just goofy. But that's coming out soon too. There's going to be a lot of shit coming out in the next.
Dude, it is nuts. I've been looking at it. Even this month is already crazy. But yeah.
And there's Stellar Blade. I have it on the news list. Stellar Blade PC got announced for June 11th. So they said ultra wide is going to be in there. Enhanced graphics, whatever that means. Ray tracing. I don't know what they're going to be doing on that, but enhanced graphics is what they say. Ultra wide, I'm sure, is going to please some people. Silver, did you do Stellar Blade, or is that too much?
I did not.
Does it look like a game that you're actually interested in now that's coming to PC, though? No? Okay.
Not really.
I couldn't remember if you would like that kind of game or not. Well, what about Days Gone PC version? Did you do Days Gone?
I've already played it on both PC and PlayStation. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You played it when it came out originally on PC?
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't miss much in this remaster.
Well, shortly after, yeah.
Gotcha. What about you, Johnny? Stellar Blade? You going to get some more booty?
I really enjoyed that game. I don't know if I would replay it because it kind of felt like a one and done type game for me. But I really had a lot of fun. It was also like a fairly easy game overall.
Agreed.
So, but it felt fun. So it was more so like a really casual Souls style like pretty forgiving overall. But I really like the world, the music, and
weirdly enough, I like the armor too. You know, ignoring the butt stuff. You know, ignoring the butt stuff. That sounds weird, but you know what I mean. Ignoring the the over the top sexuality, which I don't mind anyway at all. I'm not a big. I just don't care. I actually thought some of the armor really aesthetics. Yeah, there was I remember like a plastic invisible one that I thought not invisible, but I think certain parts were, if I remember right. It's been a while since I played it, but I really liked a lot of the design. I will say the level design got really hedgy after a while. It definitely started to feel like go to this square area, arena / Devil May Cry kind of thing, where it's like after a while you're all okay. I sort of know how. You could almost guess the beats of that game. You'd be like, I know what's going to happen right now because it's been this many sections of world I've walked through without an enemy. So there's for sure going to be an enemy here. You'd be like, yep, there's an enemy.
Yeah, I agree with that. They have sometimes some ways of like breaking up where they kind of change the gameplay at some points, where they maybe remove one thing so that you now have to hinge on other elements. But yeah, no, I agree with you. And there aren't any like new features, by the way. It's more so PC stuff like DLSS, unlimited frame rate, you know, like you said, ultra wide support.
Yeah.
I think better textures.
Yeah, most likely. Or the ability to at least, you know, turn on filtering on them, which we still see on some console games, still doing 4 times filtering or 8 times. You can see it. You know, when you're running through a game world and on the PC, that sort of 16 is just sort of not default, obviously, but you can do that. And that's a huge plus. Looking at other news, you also had Monster Hunter DEV position requires 500 hours. What the hell is a DEV? That sounds like what's DEV?
Like a dev position. Yeah, like a developer. So they're developing the next expansion or whatever.
Okay.
And they have a hiring position. And it says specifically that you need to have played at least 500 hours of Monster Hunter World to qualify, which is interesting for a developer position.
I'm trying to think if I've ever seen it. I like it. I have no issue with that, but it's very unique.
I think for a game like that, it makes sense because if you're going to be involved with the intricacies of how the combat is going to work and like how everything has to be balanced, it makes a lot of sense that you need to be very attuned to start with to every weapon, right? Like you actually have to, unless you're only focusing on a couple.
Can I ask you a question?
You have to know really well.
Do you find it odd that they're asking you for 500 hours in Monster Hunter World?
You know, I thought about that. Like in a way, it would be transferable if you had, 400 in. No, sorry. It's just dawning on me.
Do you see what I'm saying now?
The prior one. And Wild is.
Are you getting where why my question was that? Does that seem weird to you?
Okay.
You have to have 500 hours in the prior game.
In the prior.
Yeah.
Not this current one, which that feels
in my
weird
head.
To me.
I was assuming they were talking about the new one, but I copy pasted that from the article.
No,
they were talking about World.
I looked it up. Yeah, so, it is World.
Yeah, so that is actually very interesting. I guess that is their frame of reference and what they're trying to stay kind of
everything builds
true
from
toward,
World, you mean?
Maybe like building on it, maybe.
Sure,
that's very interesting.
But isn't that a little weird? Because when I read it, I was like, well, that doesn't seem like that's. I probably just.
But I'm sure if you're like a great candidate and you say, well, listen,
I have 500
to be
hours
honest
in
with
Rise.
You, I got 500 in the latest one in Wilds.
Yeah.
But no time in World. I think you still get hired. I suspect that would be more of a, bendable rule.
What if they're like, no, you're like, you have 499, you're out. You're like, dude, seriously? I have 500 and 499. They're like,
It's too much. Yeah.
Yep. moving on from there, let's talk about
need the sweet spot.
Yeah, well, and again, Silver, is what I was wondering is if it was world simply because that was the if there's some plan to sort of return to the world framework or whatever. I don't think Wilds. I mean, it was different. I don't think it was so vastly different that the experience wouldn't translate, but maybe for them it does, or maybe it's an MMO.
I think to Johnny's point, probably world represents like a core element or something.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Their system design.
So I want to talk about probably the coolest tech coming out this year. And I think that it's cooler than Switch 2. And that's Razer's new gaming chair speaker. Dude.
Yeah.
So this is called Razer now. Let's see. It's from Clio, which I think is their high-end tech brand. But this is Razer. So Razer announces the Clio, is just what they're calling it. Wireless, cordless gaming chair speaker. So it puts the speakers behind your head instead of in front of your head like your normal monitors or your normal speakers would be. 14 hours of battery life. It's Bluetooth, which, gonna be honest, wasn't super excited about seeing that because I have a lot of devices that are 2.4 now, and I'd probably rather have a 2.4. But it's got two 43 millimeter full range drivers. And if you guys want to look this up, you can just go to terminalgamer.com, which has it. So, and it's called the Clio, but it basically looks like pretty much a pad, like a cushion with two speakers.
A cushion with two speakers. Is that the dumbest thing? Like, just strap two speakers to your cushion? Like,
man, I don't know, because I have the Band, which I used to bitch about. I think I've told you I have the collar speaker one that I randomly saw it on Amazon. I was like, I'm going to test this out. And I sort of dug it for doing yard work and shit. But if it's if it's here and it's behind you, I'm not too bothered about if it's in front of you, behind you, because those are going to be really close to your ears. So it's going to be pretty much like a generic set of headphones, at least in directionality. I don't know. I got to tell you guys, somebody who has, it's invisible, but I have my pad here, and strapping something to it wouldn't work because of the setup. So I think the big thing will be how, what's the term? How compatible this device is going to be with everybody's chair. We're all literally using different versions. Jesus, Johnny doesn't even have a fucking headrest for his. So, like, how would you even...
It has to be those gaming chairs, right?
It has to be, yeah. I mean, it certainly looks like, honestly, Johnny, what I was joking about last night is I was like, I wonder if they're trying to sell a gaming chair, too, that fits that perfectly.
Yeah.
It is Razer.
Yeah. They already have a bunch of, like, third parties that sell chairs with the Razer
logos or
logo
generic,
and everything. Yeah, like collars and stuff.
I think that design is pretty popular. The gaming chair specific design. You'll see it knockoffs. You'll see more expensive ones. They all have that same, for me, it was too hard and uncomfortable over long periods of time. But if you're sitting down for 2 or 3 hours, I'm sure it's completely fine. Wireless is wireless when you're not charging it. I also don't know if I want to have to take it on and off to charge it. But if you don't, then you're going to have a wire on a chair that twists. And as somebody who has wires, I can tell you there is probably nothing in the world you do not want more than an item that can twist with a wire around it. I was actually thinking about that a couple times. I was like looking at it going, oh, shit. That will get, the chair will get twisted.
It will get pulled at some point.
At some point, yeah. But,
or just the idea of like having to remove it to charge it. Where do you even place it while it's charging? Like the whole thing is this massive.
It's huge. It's like a small child trying to bear hug the back of your head.
Hold on. Let me just charge my speakers for like an hour.
I mean, what I've been doing to get away from this issue that they're introducing is the battery banks, where I'll take the battery bank to the item being charged, or because
that could
I don't
work
have
if they
space. Well, no, I'm saying
they had a removable, maybe.
Yeah, I guess you could, like a Velcro thing. But at that point, you're going to have people just leaving that on. And then they got to charge that, which also requires, you know what I mean? It's like the never-ending store. It's like a 32X, Sega Genesis 32X on the back of your fucking seat, I don't mind it.
But do you think from like an audio perspective, it would be better if it's closer to your head in that way?
Yeah.
Could that be a better experience?
I think that if you don't want to wear headsets, which I totally understand because we all got ones. You have open back, I think, and bigger ones. Mine are closed, and so warmth, clamp pressure. Somebody may wear a baseball cap and doesn't like the way it fits with their baseball cap. There's all kinds of reasons why. If that's that close to you, it's not going to be too big of a deal. Your brain is not going to really know that it's not in front of you. That's pretty close, and they're canted. I think that part's pretty fine. I just think that it's more of a, it looks cool, but then the more you start looking at what we're talking about, which is like wire twist,
the practicality,
then you start like, I hadn't thought about what you just. I had thought about charging it on I'm not taking that off my chair all the time.
Dude,
nothing.
What the hell?
So I was thinking about charging it on the thing and the difficulties there, but the difficulties, what you just talked about, I don't have a space for a 14-inch, speaker
where do I
system.
park this thing?
Yeah, where do I park? Yeah, so we just have to see, man. I like the idea of these alternative ways to get better audio, though. I mean, it's better than... It depends on where you're sitting. TV audio is amazing now too for some TVs, but I mean,
or just like small speakers that you can buy. They've gotten to be really good.
Yeah,
even if you can't get like monitors,
Yep, very much so. But I'm all for it. Did they say the price on this, Johnny?
They did actually. Razer. Yeah, I'm opening it right now.
230. Oh, 230 pounds.
Yeah.
So English. Not English, sorry. US probably 250, 260. That's about the cost. I actually, going to be honest, I thought it would be more like 300. Ooh, wow. With no charging cable included.
I'm seeing here, $230.
Yeah.
Around 230.
No charging cable. You okay, Silver?
Yeah.
You got a headache?
No, just my eye was itchy.
Just making sure.
Oh.
That was it.
You ever got a sty? I've never got one, but I have friends who get them. And man, those sound terrible. It's when like a part of your eye follicle gets clogged and it swells up.
God.
Yeah, one of my friends gets styes during really bad allergy seasons, and it starts to itch, and then it just fucking swells up. And he looks
I get a lot of like flakes in my eyes for some reason.
Do you mean floaters? We call them floaters.
Yeah, or like the crust. Eye crust.
Oh, yeah, so do I. Yeah, especially if I'm like keep my eyes open for too long. But yeah, we'll just have to see. I have to be really picky with my headphones because of my glasses, and if it's too heavy, immediate no. Yeah, we've talked about clamping force on headsets too. When they clamp too hard, and after a while, you're just sitting there going like, okay, shit, man, this is starting to kill me. Like, this is not comfortable at all. But most headsets these days you can test, or you can buy them from Amazon and return them. So there's no negative there. I think it's cool. It doesn't appeal to me, but to somebody who has a small area,
and for that price, you could get
that's not a bad
very
price,
competent pair of monitors. I think for that price?
Pair of monitors, probably not. If you want pretty good monitors, probably not. But you are right that at 230, you are looking at a delta that isn't much to get some for sure. I think Dickey, is M something. M. Dickey, that doesn't sound right, but I know that there's...
It really doesn't. No.
It doesn't, but I think that is them. But when I got my ProSonus, I remember there was 2 or 3 other monitors that were amplified that were pretty close, but they were only 4.5, 6.5 speakers. But these would be small too. Dude, recently one of my friends told me like he's been loving putting a bass shaker on his chair, like. He ended up wiring a separate bass shaker to his chair. And I was like, dude, do you shit all the time? Was it like, it make you have to poop with that thing just constantly vibrating in his chair? He told me no. I don't know if I believe him, but I do like that everybody's got different ways to get their audio to them. I mean, earbuds, whatever. Well, earbuds are crazy. I can't do earbuds, but I think it's very cool that people have so many options. And honestly, that's not a bad price for Razer, Johnny. That straight up, that's lower than I thought it was going to be from Razer. Like we've seen Razer occasionally be like, so we heard you don't like money. Good, because we're going to take
they pay for the brand more than the product.
Absolutely, yeah. So that price, not so bad. I can deal with that. What else do we got? Let's look at what else Johnny have. How big does size matter? Monster Hunter.
Yeah, we talked about that.
IGN Crimson Desert, Razer. It's been a fairly eventful but somewhat short week here for looking. I'm looking here at new news. Capcom Fighting Collection, didn't that just come out? Like a collection of some type from Capcom? I saw some people streaming it, but I didn't know exactly what it was, so I didn't check into it in depth.
Yeah, Fighting Collection 2, right?
Yeah, something like that. But I didn't really check. It was one of those things where there's probably only...
that came out today, actually.
Today?
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough games on there that I would like, if that makes
So
sense.
it includes, to name a few, Capcom versus SNK, and that 1 and 2. There's also Capcom Fighting Evolution, Street Fighter, Alpha 3, Power Stone 1 and 2, Project Justice, Plasma Sword.
Power Stone's awesome.
Yeah.
And Power Stone, yeah, those are great Dreamcast games. So it's just an old collection, even though it's called the fighting one, it's really not the fighting one. I mean, Power Stone is fighting, but it's not. I guess I thought it was all just the 2D. It's not.
Right. It's around $40. $40
for a collection? That's not bad. Did you guys ever own the Rare Replay collection? The one from Rare that was for the Xbox? That was so crazy because it was just a front end, and when you tried to play the game, it would just download the entire game onto your... It was basically a mini digital storefront in a storefront. It was such an odd title. But it had a lot
There
of
was
stuff.
another topic here about the Steam security alert that came out.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, that's a short one. But basically there were some rumors, there was some false, I guess, false claim that Steam had been hacked, and that I think it was like almost 90 million Steam passwords and stuff were hacked, but then Steam came out and said, listen, we've checked into it. They look safe. Obviously, changing your password should be done anyway. But at the time, it seemed much ado about nothing. And as I said, as somebody who tracks this kind of stuff, if it is real or was real or whatever, very quickly after a company says it's not real, the hacker / leaker, whatever, will leak a couple to prove it's real. And I don't think we've seen that. So we're at the point now where it feels like it's not real. What do we have in Discord, by the way? Because I don't have that.
All right, let's take a look here. So Discord today, we have this one from Speku. What's your favorite piece of equipment or gadget in a game that truly elevated your gameplay experience, like Master Chief's grapple, Indy's whip, or Doomslayer's shield?
Without a doubt, the fucking... I can't remember if it was called the Beatnator or whatever, but the dance gun in Saints Row, where you could shoot people and make them dance. That shit was... It was its own thing for me. Like, it was its own game. And it fit perfectly with Saints Row. Like, other than the dildo sword in Saints Row, which was more, hey, look at us. You know what I mean? It was like, yeah, it's funny, but it's more, it's sort of what you would expect from them. That was my favorite, for sure. What about your guys's?
Huh.
I'm trying to think back to give another answer to the ones I've typically
Armed
given.
and Dangerous, I assume, would be one of yours.
Yeah, exactly. Like that topsy-turvy corkscrew where you stick it into the ground to flip gravity so that people fall into the sky, and then you flip it back so they drop down like rain.
Ahead of its time. I mean, when you think about the technical elements of that.
Ooh, maybe
insane.
that's it.
Yeah,
maybe
and then the shark gun that shoots land sharks that then
swim around the ground and eat people.
Yeah.
That shit was so amazing at the time.
But the portal gun was definitely
portal gun was
super iconic.
Oh, for sure. And the gravity gun from Half-Life 2.
Yeah.
I will say that a game that taught me that not everything needs to be ballistics or lasers, that will forever be one of my favorite weapons of all time, is the Needler from Halo. I just remember it
what do you like about it? Like seeing the visual spikes and stuff, or what?
It's the way it works, and that it like does it accrues damage over time. They'll stick to them, then blow up once they get to a certain time. There's something about it that felt multi-tiered before multi-tiered.
You could like shoot someone, you know they're gonna die from it, and you just walk away and they explode behind you.
There was nothing better than hearing those hit somebody and being in chat and hearing them panic as you run the other way. And even if it didn't kill them, it was there. It was very satisfying as a weapon that wasn't in the typical ballistics or laser sphere or ion or proton or the typical stuff.
I still think the Kusarigama in Neo was one of my favorite because the way it worked. Like, if people don't know in chat, like Neo had stances, right? So you had the long, the short, the medium, the short stance, and you could switch between those in combos. And like the way the Kusarigama behaved was completely different in short versus long, and the chain worked really well.
Yeah, that dude.
I have another one as well, actually. That's an alternative. Unreal Tournament. My favorite gun in that game was the beam. It was almost a sniper rifle, except you didn't really have a scope for it.
The beam or the ball?
Just the beam. Yeah, the ball. I think the ball was the secondary fire.
It was the secondary fire.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, so good.
But yeah, just the complete a bullet drop, just the instant beam to the target. It was just so satisfying to use.
And the fact that you could shoot the ball and let it go out, then switch to the laser and shoot the ball.
And what made it even more fun was if you turned on the Instagip modifier so that you one-shot killed with it.
Yeah, so good, man. Yeah, Unreal, the alternate, what do you call it in Unreal? The goo gun, everything had something that made, even if you didn't like the prime, you'd find that you liked something.
I mean, the flat gun, I think, was probably the best gun in the game because of the two fire modes it had. Yeah. Where the primary was the shotgun, and then the secondary was like a grenade you popped out.
God, dude, Unreal was a pun, but it was unreal to like play and have those different options and switch around and be able to switch and hit somebody around a corner with like the flechette shotgun instead of the grenade launcher when you'd just been using it. Everything was so slick. That game's amazing. What else?
It's funny that Necro said, like in the thread, he said, and why is it the Kusarigama and Neo? So he had the same.
I love that Necro can never figure out, for somebody who's used Discord for 5 years, 6, 7 years, he can never figure out when he's responding in the wrong thread or whatever, because he also posted he answered somebody, and I'm like, dude, this is for questions. Like, he'll just go off, blah, 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 blah. You're like, yeah, I love it. He just, and why? It's like, dude, put a question in. Well,
technically he did in this instance to defend him a little bit. Okay. He just added an extra question on top of Johnny's.
Okay. All right.
Sort of try and make
I guess technically, well, it's, what do you call it? Like, he doesn't expect an answer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What else we got?
This one from Jesus Crust. Recently picked up, he always got some good questions, I feel like. Jesus. He says, recently picked up Black Mesa, the Half-Life 1 fan remake, for really cheap, and I'm excited to dive in. What's an old game, like more 20 years old, that you would love to get the full remake that updates not only graphics but sound, also modernizes some crunchy gameplay elements too?
I have one. A gameplay experience you and I grew up with about half a dozen times, maybe, Carrick, that modern gamers haven't had, is the Death Star trench run. Getting to blow up the Death Star.
Yeah.
We got to experience that in 6 games or something, and we haven't seen that in games in 30 years now, maybe.
Yeah, that is true.
Certainly 20 years. So I would really like to see a Rogue Squadron remake, actually.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing some Star Wars stuff.
And a full update on that.
I mean, I guess we got Squadrons, which I think did well, but it didn't have that. It was more that,
and that was more like a and a dogfighting sort of aspect, where Rogue Squadron is more like ground assault and the Death Star trench run and stuff like that. Getting shot at by anti-air fire, hitting ground targets, and trying to destroy bases and stuff. Yeah.
I do feel like maybe we're in an not anti-Star Wars, but I think that the cliched stuff from Star Wars, if it's going to be anything, it'll be like Phantom Menace kind of stuff. But I still think the best moments in any of those is when they copy the classic, whether it be the Death Star run, the trench run, even the Hoth fighting off
very
the
much
plane.
yeah.
I would love to see that.
Cabling the legs of the AT-AT walkers.
That was one of the, and it was awesome too, because you could take some fire in the arcade or in the normal version, but in the arcade, the Star Wars games in the arcade, you had to really watch out what you were doing, and they just mimicked all the big fights, and that was awesome. Yeah, I would like to see more Star Wars classic stuff. Lego stuff seems to have like pretty good render. I mean, not detailed or anything, but it's like they have no problem going back to that. But for whatever reason,
that's true.
Yeah.
Lego also did Horizon. Did you guys do the Horizon Lego game? The Horizon Zero Dawn Lego game?
No.
I don't even remember how that scored. I think it only scored middling. But I like that Lego. They'll do anything. They're like, okay, Horizon sounds like a good plan.
Dude, yeah.
I think that's actually
nothing is out of limits.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to IP stuff, because some of the biggest shows and movies you don't see really replicated right now if it isn't a new Star Wars or Fast and Furious we haven't seen. We saw one game which was horrendous on the 360. But I guess that'd just be driving, right? I mean, there's not much you could do.
Yeah.
Dude,
you would have to get creative with that one.
What else we got?
By the way, my answer would be Final Fantasy IX.
I'm sorry. I
don't know if you guys played that. No, it's okay.
Yep.
Don't worry. Have you like it, Silver?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this
I find it just a lovely story.
Aesthetic of
it. Right. Yeah, I think it's just a lovely story. Would be awesome to see.
But here's my question. Because they all have different mechanics, would you actually want the mechanics touched up, or did you like the mechanics of 9 enough? Because they all are so different. I know some people like those, the whatever magic
I would like the full remake treatment we got for 7.
Oh,
where
I see what you're saying. Okay.
It's like, it's high detail, it's real time. Well, you could make it turn-based. I don't have something against it, but more like the level of detail that we saw with 7.
I just realized I also didn't get my answer, and now that you said that, and I appreciate you mentioning Final Fantasy because it reminded me of RPGs. Morrowind. Or sorry, Daggerfall.
Oh, Daggerfall. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know there's a Unity
so like similar
thing,
to
but
the Oblivion.
Yeah, similar to that, but just leaving all the hugeness of it and the idea of just all the weird shit you could do. I would fucking love that. Boy, would it be tough.
I guess it's a big question, but like, what is special about Daggerfall compared to Oblivion, Morrowind? Is there something you can put your finger to, or more of a vibe?
More overall? Of a vibe. I think with Oblivion and Skyrim, they were so small, and Morrowind was so small compared to Daggerfall. I always felt size did matter at that point, because I was so stunned by the sheer, and you could still do a lot of the same mechanics, like become a vampire, become a werewolf, do stuff in the stores, fuck with people and their inventory. But it was just so long ago that now we get these games that are truncated because they have to be size-wise. We have Fuel, which is the racing game that has the massive world. You have The Crew, which has a massive world. But RPG-wise, it's unprecedented size-wise. But if you go look at the map, it's almost like a No Man's Sky kind of thing, where you're like, wait a minute, oh fuck, that's the entire game is like the size of entire continents. That to me is exciting, just for an exploration kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I cannot say the gameplay. The reason why, when you started talking about the changes you wanted to see to 9, that's why Daggerfall came in, because I don't think the gameplay holds up. I do think, like what you said,
revamp.
Yeah, you'd have to revamp and quality of life a bunch of shit. Which, by the way, quality of life I use sometimes to diss on. So I'm not using it. It needs quality of life. There would be quite a number of things where you're like, it wasn't better back then. It was literally shit. It's because at the time they didn't have the technology like we do now. So Final Fantasy IX, I don't remember too much. I'm trying to even think this entire time of.
Do you remember, like, it had the guy with no face, like he was just completely black?
Yeah, he was
Vivi.
a lot like Orcus from Masters of the Universe. Vivi, the magician.
In 9,
Like the wizard
magician,
hat,
yeah. I guess I
tiny guy.
didn't play 9 then. I guess
Maybe not.
I think
yeah.
I played 8 with Cadiz. Yeah, I don't think I played 9. Yeah, at all.
There you go.
I might have been a Dragon Quest fan at the time. And I wasn't even a big Dragon Quest fan, but I think maybe if I skewed towards an RPG at that time when Dragon Quest was still a thing. That's one series that's gone sort of.
I mean, they're still rocking. They do decent numbers. It's more so that
A Dragon Quest?
They
I
really-
don't even know. Is there one out? I mean, other than the ripoff of the Dynasty Warriors titles, has there been a true RPG Dragon Quest in a while? I feel like there
Dragon
hasn't.
Quest. Am I thinking? Wasn't there Dragon Quest 13?
I mean, there might have been, but I feel like it would have been like
What?
8-9 years ago.
No. Sorry, it's 11. So Dragon Quest 11 was one that
Wait.
came out on Game Pass. This was like 2020. So
And it
I
was
think
new.
there
And
has been-
11 isn't the old game that
It
was
was-
just put on Dragon, or just put on. Okay,
no, that was new at the time.
Okay.
But
there you go.
I
All
think
right.
you're right in the sense that there haven't been any since.
Well, I think I'm just
Just
comparing it to
double
Final
checking.
Fantasy's big magnum opus shit. Like Final Fantasy,
No,
other than
yeah, it's-
Strangers of
yeah.
Paradise, which was just a disaster. Admittedly,
Yeah.
I know people like, but you get my drift. Final Fantasy is like Final Fantasy. It's huge. It's-
They've stuck to their guns where, you know what you're going to get every game.
yeah,
every
I think
Dragon
that's true.
Quest.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Vapor for Blood says Thief Deadly Shadows. Listen, I like that game a lot, but I absolutely agree. What's up, Plague Souls? Hope you're doing well. I would agree with that one. Also, Kel says the disc launcher from Star Siege Tribes was a weapon that he liked. That Star Siege, I know we talk about it in the chat, but you just don't see people talk about those games much, other than the remake or whatever that popped up recently and stuff like that, or maybe it was a remaster. But yeah, the Tribes games were awesome. Dylan says there was that Creature Collector Dragon Quest RPG. Yeah, see, exactly. I'm talking about the true RPG stuff. I think there's been some roll-offs that weren't as good. And Red Faction. Bicky Monster says Red Faction. Anything better than Remar's turd? Man,
Oh God,
what a rough time that was. What else we got?
rough. Mirabilis was asking about the marathon art situation. We talked about that. Green Saturn says, "Hi ACG. How do I tell if she likes? If it's just platonic chemistry, asking for a friend."
Oh, if she likes you, or if it's just platonic?
Yeah, that's what I'm reading. Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That's the
Damn,
fucking.
okay.
That's the question that if AI ever answers, the Turing test.
Life
is done.
advice with ACG. Here we
No,
go.
dude, that's a. Oh, I think
There's no set answer for that.
there is no set. I think we've all been there, and we've been there.
That's
I've been there with
something
others.
You're gonna have to feel through instinct,
Yeah.
and a sense of knowing that person and trying to gauge that relationship yourself and assess that situation.
I mean, honestly, I'm going to give you the pussy way out, which I think is fair, because I've had it the other way where somebody came to me and was like, "This person, I think they like you," but they were saying that they did, and I didn't know.
Right.
So it happens. But I would say, if you have a friend who is a good friend, and you can say, "I'm just wondering," and if you trust them,
Is
to
there
not say anything,
something-
but yeah, be like, "Have they ever?" Because sometimes your friend will be like, "Thank you for fucking asking me. This is getting ridiculous. I'm tired of hearing, blah, 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 saying they like whatever." So, honestly, asking a friend or somebody who knows that person and be like, "Hey, do you think they do, or have they said anything?" Because sometimes you just have to ask. I mean, you could also ask them, but that can be uncomfortable. And it is better
not
to do
only
that
that,
on the
dude.
sly,
Right. Yeah. Not only that, but if it's a friend, like that might change your friendship.
Yeah.
If, let's say, your friend now knows that you have romantic feelings for her or him, whatever, like at that point, whether you want it or not, that does change a little bit the nature of your interactions, because they're now going to know that you're
Yeah.
you're
Oh, for sure.
trying to slide in.
Powder Cake says his character's relationship with Snickers platonic. No. That's
no, it's
pure
full
smut.
on.
It's smut.
Yeah.
Dude, that is I think that's an
tough.
age-old thing. I mean, I don't really think there's anybody I've ever met who hasn't had the experience of either being on one end or the other, or even having a friend come to them. That's like definitely has happened where somebody be like, "Hey, I like your friend. Do you think they like, me in that way?" And I got to tell you, in all honesty, I've never met guy or girl who doesn't tell their friends if they do. That's the other thing. If you think that maybe they won't know, there's probably a high chance they do know, or they've even been told by that person, "I hope so-and-so doesn't think I do and like them because I don't that way." That's good to know too, because I mean, hope is great, but after a while, I've seen people waste years on hope. And you're coming to that day where you're like, should I just tell him he's 30? Like it's been 6 years. He needs to knows. We got to get a move on, man. Your sperm are drying up. We got to get you out there, dating somebody who, actually may like you. Yeah. That's a tough one.
I think for the most part, if you have a good friendship, it will survive whatever awkwardness. Just assuming, let's say, the other person doesn't like you back, whatever awkwardness that generates, I think that beats, like you say, just not knowing and stay in this limbo.
It always beats not knowing. I was just saying exhaust every avenue possible before asking.
Oh yeah, true.
Because
why not try the friends first? Yeah,
but I mean,
not like that.
Asking somebody, let's try some friends out. It is better to know, because you're not wasting it. But talking to a friend versus
that might very well affect the friendship.
Yeah, because I have seen friendships go weird.
It could,
The one worst thing I've experienced was I saw a friend acting really odd, and they were I guess you would say, they're not an egotistical person, and they started getting very egotistical, and I couldn't figure out why, and found out it's because he found out somebody liked him and he didn't like them, but it felt good to know somebody liked them. Ooh. And it turned very, I hate using the word toxic because it's so overused, but it turned really weird to the point to where we had to be like, dude, you're sort of being a dick now. Like you're now you're almost flirting on purpose. Because,
like smug type thing or something. Yeah.
You're leading them on.
Yeah,
also,
it was one of those times where you're like, dude, this is the sort of the I'm seeing the worst of this person. It's probably best. We've all been the worst person. There's always going to be somebody out there saying I do everything
conclusion
perfect.
For Green Saturn, try some friends.
Try some friends. Yeah. Try some friends out. See how
John
how they feel.
Galt says, do you have any recommendations for gaming tech companies that manufacture in the USA? Looking for a new job as a mechanical engineer with lots of manufacturing experience. Weird question, but hoping to get some ideas that I haven't thought of myself yet.
Anybody in chat, if you do know, feel free to post it because we leave the chat live after, and there's more people in chat than us. I don't know of anybody that's beyond anything. I mean, I haven't even really heard. I don't know of any. And
sadly, I'm not based in the U.S.
Yeah, I was going to say, sadly, you guys aren't based in the U.S.
we can't help there. That's a tough one. It's also like pretty specific because he wants gaming, so he would have to be. You know
who might know? I'll DM. I don't want to speak for this person. I do know somebody who is definitely has family and is pretty open about talking to family in the game industry at multiple companies. I'll ask them. I'll ask. I can DM John. That was John Galt. John, I am John Galt or whatever. It's like
I am John Galt.
Yeah. I see him in chat. The other person's in chat a lot. They talk about it openly, but I don't want to say, I don't want to speak for him, but I'll ask. It's a good question. It's always hard with job stuff too, because I mean, you never know how somebody's even doing the applications or if they're even allowed to tell anybody else if they're looking. There's a lot of the NDA shit and stuff like that too that's going on right now. Gaming in specific, man. Gaming's weird right now. id, I think, is hiring. I think id's hiring.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I thought they were.
Yeah, it's pretty weird right now.
Romulus, who is John, he says doesn't have to be gaming. Tech works also. Okay, gotcha. Well, we do have some people in tech. When you're in chat, I'll remember, and we'll see if those people are in chat because they're pretty open about hiring and stuff like that. What else we got?
So Silver talked about the Helldivers update, and then we have Colis saying, "What's something you never thought in a million years you'd be into until you saw someone competent doing it?"
Oh, man.
For me, it was.
Wow, did my brain go dirty right away? Anyways, Jesus,
wow,
he didn't even get it out all the way out. Sorry, I interrupted you. Continue.
For me, it was hanging drywall. I had to remodel our bathroom and really hated hanging the drywall until I came across a video showing a guy doing it insanely well and fast. I must have watched that video 50 times because it was so satisfying.
Is it the guy with the Hulk Hogan haircut? He's about 50, he could be 45 to 55. And I believe he owns his own contractor company. He is all over YouTube right now, and he always shows drywall stuff. It's if it's who I think it is, that guy is amazing. He actually also helped us just drywall. Literally watched him do a couple tricks for like covering holes in drywall and matching drywall. He also showed how to make it. Do you guys have the old popcorn roofs where the interior ceiling is really textured? Do you guys? It's sort of an older style, but if you try to match it, it's very difficult. And he showed how to do it in like 20 seconds. Great YouTube. Oh man, I wish I could remember his name. What's something that
I'll check it out.
So something that we learned or that we became interested in is what he's asking. Something we became interested in.
Because you saw somebody good at
someone good at it. And you never thought in a million years you'd be into it.
There's a lot. I mean, there are a lot of sports I watch where I go, I had no idea that was a sport. I never imagined I could be interested in that, but that looks really fun to do. Like that's happened frequently. I'll give you maybe a non-traditional answer. Like when I grew up, I watched a lot of old Hollywood films, and I was never interested in like fashion or anything. But there were two actors in particular where the way they carried themselves deeply inspired me. That was Cary Grant and Humphrey Bogart. And they basically became sort of style icons for me for how to carry yourself, how to sort of present yourself, I guess, in a way. Because of just the way they carried themselves. So with that confidence, with that sort of competence, I guess you could call it, the way they did it, that became deeply inspirational to me. Or inspiring.
That's a good one. I think PC building for me, because I didn't want anything to do with like PC, like building PCs way back in the day.
Right.
Because I was too afraid that like, something's going to go wrong. I'm going to destroy something. But when I started watching guys like Jay's 2 Cents, a lot of these guys on YouTube, I started to see like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. And you have the added bonus that, you can fix an issue to some extent, at least, or like replace a part if you have to, without having to ship your whole PC.
Man, that is tough. Somebody said, so we don't have to do it, right? He's just saying something we didn't think we'd be interested in, but now are interested in.
Yeah.
Because of.
Yeah.
So Oregon says, he said blackmail on accident, but he meant blacktail woodworking. I will say the resin pours. Yeah, I was like, honestly, I've been staring at that comment because I was trying to parse what blackmail woodworking was. Like, dude, I'm gonna make this small dildo and I'm gonna pretend it's yours and I'm gonna ship that thing. I was like, blackmail woodworking is definitely a genre I did not think somebody'd be into. Resin pours. When somebody pours resin into a gaming table, I've tried it a couple times, and
yes,
like the inexperience that I continue to demonstrate shows just how,
and it looks so fluid and easy when they do it
and
too.
you cannot do it. You cannot do it without all the steps they show. You know how you can sometimes cheat something? I'm telling you, resin pours, you cannot cheat.
You can get 90% of the way there.
And with resin pours, you can't. It's ridiculous. Every single step, they'll tell you the exact degrees. They'll tell you blah, 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 blah. And I've tried to cheat a couple times because of speed or whatever, and it's always turned out shit. I would say resin pours when somebody does one, makes a game table. I saw a guy who takes miniatures and he pours resin around them so that the miniature can never break. So one of the coolest ones was he took a Halo statue. It was like 8 inches tall, put it inside of a, and diorama is what I'm getting to right now. Yeah, powder keg. He took a 8-inch tall Halo statue. He built a box around it, and then he poured resin, and then he made sure the resin pour was smooth and everything. And that Halo, he'll never get to it again, right? It's impervious. It's like being in carbonite in Star Wars. But he's always going to have that, and you could drop it from 100 feet and it would never break. And I sort of love the idea of doing dioramas and stuff. His name is like B something for dioramas on YouTube, and I've showed it in our chat many times late at night. It's like Batabi game. It's like German or something. It's a very weird spelling, but he does dioramas of like models that he puts together. That shit is awesome. Never thought I'd be interested in that. Yeah, dioramas and resin pours are cool. Blackmail woodworking now, though, is what I want to get into.
Damn, the woodworking.
Dude, I love that. It's like, if you keep messing with me, I'm going to make a fucking diorama of your butt. I'm going to sell it online. You're like, well, why would that matter? Blackmail. And then Kel said curling. Yeah, sports is what I was thinking, too. Like, if there's ever been a sport, that's popped up. Because definitely will watch something on YouTube I would never think of, especially if it's a good announcer or somebody who can talk about it. Oh, that's my answer. I changed it from dioramas, all that. Poker. Never been a poker fan, but once I started watching like the big game and stuff like that, and I started seeing there was just something about it that got me super into it. I play poker with friends, but it's certainly nothing of that. It's just like you're occasionally playing with some matchsticks and shit. But yeah, that stuff. Yeah, that's awesome when somebody is really good at poker and they're talking instead of being like super quiet. Oregon Fresh says, "Boys, have an awesome weekend. I'm out." He's gonna go and make a blacktail or blackmail woodwork of somebody's butt. Have a good one, man. Enjoy yourself. What else we got? Anything?
Yes. One sec. I lost my thread here. Here we go. Actually, last question for today from Kel. We obviously talk a lot about video games. I wonder though, what's your favorite board game to play? Good one.
I think these days it's probably Scythe.
Really?
Scythe is awesome.
Yeah. I know a lot of people who just swear by that game, man.
Have you tried it, Carrick?
I have, but I didn't play with expert players. I think we played with one expert player, which is not what you want to do, because I think none of us knew but him.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, that wouldn't work. Because you'd be confused.
Yeah, he was doing stuff because he forgot to tell you. I forgot to tell you you can do this. And you're like, you mean you can fucking win right away? Like, you're just making shit up.
Way to ruin the fun for everybody else.
So what do you guys like about Scythe? Because it sounds like you both are huge. Like, what like made you interested in that game? Was it prior to playing it, or was it after somebody suggested it and then you love the gameplay?
I think we played it. The first time I played it was actually with Johnny in Tabletop.
I think so.
Yeah, in the Discord.
What grabbed you?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of like the social aspect of having to game your opponents, as it were, and sometimes like try and barter with them, sometimes try and play them off against each other, and then mixing that with the actual mechanics of building up your resources and choosing what to produce, what to focus on, where to pool your resources, how to manage them. Mm-hmm. All of those sort of tie together into an experience that's really fun and really addictive and really unique for each play session.
Yeah, there's something about the, what do you call them? The little pieces, the props, Like
and the physical aspects of moving those around as well.
I really enjoy it. Like when I play it IRL, I love moving all the things. And Tabletop does a good job too. They have a version there. They also have a standalone game on Steam, Scythe, that you can play if you want like a faster, But yeah, there's something about the combination of resource management and acquisition with territorial competition and control.
Yeah.
And like Silver said, like you might play nice with someone, right? Because you want something out of them, or you don't want to antagonize them in some way. And then you might surprise them and like, cover a path that they want to take. And now they have to go through you or all this type of stuff.
Or maybe you have one plan set, and then all of a sudden you draw a card that gives you entirely new options and new possibilities, where suddenly there's an entirely new path that you hadn't seen before. And so, like one plan where maybe you were planning on staying friends with someone suddenly invites to breaking that friendship and doing something else.
Carrick, someday we'll sit you down
and play
and
that?
Try Scythe.
Yeah, no, I have no issues with that. I would love to play it. My game is a game that no one will play with me at all. And I understand why, because the setup is so long. But Twilight Imperium, which is, it's known for 12 to 24-hour games, and the setup can be like an hour and a half. Now with AI, you can have AI do you can have it help you, which is great. You upload a PDF and just say, help me set this up. And you don't have to like read through stuff as harshly, but no one will ever play because other than the cabin that we go to, there's not enough time. And it's the same thing as Scythe. It's like got the miniatures. It's got the super in-depth strategies. And I love the idea of a 4X space. Every single galaxy is different because you flip it over and it's randomized. I love that kind of shit. I think the big problem with board games, it's not just the time, it's the complexity of rules, it's the mistakes too. Yes. I think I've never heard anybody, I could be wrong, I haven't really heard anybody bitch about Scythes like errata. But I can tell you most of the games I like, if it's like Fantasy Flight, there is not a shittier rules company in the universe. It's as if they're terrible. Like, when you buy one of their games, that the first thing you should do, day one even, is go because they have fucked up their main rule book. Like, you just know they're horrendous. Like, they have the worst editors I've ever seen, and they're known worldwide for, like, every time I invite somebody over, they're like, whoa, before, is that Fantasy Flight?
Like
we need to go
the
online.
Opposite of proof reading.
Yeah.
It's like,
but their games, once you get into them, Star Wars, the one where you're on the ground, Imperial Assault is fantastic. It's D&D light, great game. But yeah, I love the idea of board games. It's hard for me to get a group together. You have Lemon Streak there. Do you guys have another group, Silver, that are near you? Do you guys get to do physical games? Yeah.
Not outside of what Lemon and I sort of arrange. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the difficulty here. And then Johnny, you've got your parents who play, but do you have
I have some work friends that we get together every couple months. There's a board game cafe we go to and we play stuff there. We've played a number of things. Recently we played Dice Throne, which is the one you recommended that I've been enjoying. And ours came with I think it was Thor, Loki, Spider-Man, and Scarlet Witch. I think that's the pack that I got. That one's super fun. And then at the cafe, they also have other versions. I think there's even like a Game of Thrones version of that. And it's all the same idea and stuff. But that's a really fun one. We played 4 people, so 2 versus 2. And that worked super well.
Dice Throne's a blast. It's a very well done game. In general, it's also I would say it's a good get people who haven't played a board game.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to get into.
It's pretty easy, yeah. And they, once you explain a couple things, like, oh, okay, I see. I sort of see what I'm doing, and it works out very well. Bob says, says there's a seamstress on YouTube, Bernadette Banner, who does her own Victorian clothing. Never in a million years would I've thought that was interesting, but it's soothing and she's methodical and such. That's awesome.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of stuff like artsy stuff there's this channel I watch sometimes, Nerd Forge, where they do
Yeah.
a bunch of like big creative projects and stuff, and like some of it is crazy. Like they will craft a book that's like giant, for example. They did that recently, where they did for all of Brandon Sanderson's books, like a giant, a colossal edition, where it's like, like
That's cool.
the size of your torso, each book, and they show like, okay, they have to print all the pages and then like thread everything. That's just a crazy thing. So I would never do that, but it's really cool to watch someone who's good at that stuff.
One of my favorite things is just watching people. I mean, watching people work, I guess, but like create stuff. That whole process. Like, I think you and I, Carrick, have talked about the Discovery show that used to run with Mike Rowe, Dirty Jobs.
Dirty Jobs, yeah.
Just this year's scope and breadth of like careers that he touched on,
and his respect towards them was like,
exactly.
kudos, because he would do some shit jobs, sure. Right? Like, man, such a good show. Yeah,
and just to sort of get a window into another person's life, another person's routine, existence, how they do things, how they think, endlessly fascinating to me.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. Dirty Jobs probably I guess, what do we call Dirty Jobs? Is it technically, what's the term?
It is a sort of reality show.
Reality show. Yeah, I was just...
But it's sort of in there in between being a documentary show and being a reality show, I would say. It sort of bridges the two.
I love the respect that he pays. So, like, dude, that show wouldn't be anything. It would be sort of like How It's Made, which I love watching that show. They'll be like, how it's made,
sure.
Twinkies. And you're like, all right,
I'll
watch that. Mike Rowe and only very few other people out there are able. I mean, he teases it and everything, but there's something about the respect that he had towards normal people who were not doing. Because I'm not a huge like, let's watch an influence. Like Johnny, I watch Nerd Forge, but one of the problems I have with those channels is they blow up by blowing up. So they never make anything normal anymore. It's always chasing the algo. Yeah. And back then, there wasn't an algo to chase, right? So Mike would be a sewer guy one day. He'd be on a boat the next day. He'd be a pipe fitter one day. And then he would do something
tannery on another.
Tannery, but then he would do like a very very finesse requiring job that wouldn't fit. It didn't fit in his bailiwick, and he didn't give a shit. He'd just be like, we're going to cover seamstresses or whatever. And you'd just be like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, that's not what I expected.
Or when he went to be a snake wrangler and got bit like 57 times.
Yeah, dude. He was in the sewer and he was talking about the fatality rate of sewer workers over a long period of time because they ingest
fumes.
Yeah. That kind of stuff. I wish we had more of those where it was more like, hey, and not in the, if somebody did it now, it would be about the person doing it. Mike Rowe was about the job. And he happened to be the person who was showing it to you. And that reverse isn't possible anymore. Too much. I think that it doesn't feed the algo as much. And if it does, I feel like some of them are set up. I didn't really feel that with his. Most of the time I was like, okay, if he says he was out there shoveling shit, he was shoveling shit. Did you guys see the episode where he had to do the animal husbandry and shit? And he was like helping donkeys have sex or not donkeys, horses, and you're just like, damn, he's.
I mean, the big one he had with the animal husbandry was where he had the sheep farming when he had to neuter sheep, teeth, like lambs with his teeth.
They were using the bands at that time. Were they using the rubber band gun? Is that what they were using, or his teeth? You said it was his teeth.
That was the general regular one, but they preferred to use their teeth, and so they asked him to do that. Because they felt it was a lot better for the sheep, actually, because with the elastic band, the lamb would actually like wobble around afterwards and limp and stuff. Well, when you just tore it off with your teeth, the lamb actually just scudded off, seemingly none the worse for wear afterwards, weirdly.
Dude, I remember that one. That's nuts. It's nuts. That was not a pun. Wow. But anyway,
and yet it ended up being a pun.
It ended up being a pun. Yeah, those were great shows. That's the one cool thing about it, regardless of anything else. I'll go and I'll.
And that
find
was
some
when
old
Discovery
shows.
Channel actually used to
Showed
make
shit.
somewhat,
Yep.
worthwhile content.
Yep. Ice Road Truckers. I think it's one of the few shows I've watched every episode because I was just like, wow, I didn't know these people. I mean, I knew they existed, but I didn't know they existed in the format they did and how diverse the drivers might be and their jobs and what it required. And it was all on them. Like they were told where to go. Other than that, it was like on them to fix every bit of damage, on them to like figure out how to get there. That shit's awesome, man. Do we have any more, Johnny?
Nope, that's it.
All right, well, we can wrap it up. Anything cool going on this weekend or any... Yes, dog. He heard me say that. Is there anything cool going on this weekend or any awesome stuff that's been happening? Any shows, movies, music you guys have been listening to? Anything you want to like?
Yeah, I finished Andor's second season, which was really, really solid. Very impressed with it. I have to say.
I heard a lot good about it.
I did too.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's,
go ahead.
Broadly speaking, it's probably one of the most historically and politically literate pieces of media I've consumed in a very, very long time. I've been very, very impressed with it. I have very few, if any, points of real criticism towards it.
Better than Andor 1 even? Because I know a lot of people liked Andor as a whole. They liked the first season. Sounds like
I
you like
think,
this one.
Yeah, because it really sort of builds on season 1 and delivers on it, and it really sticks the landing. And it just enhances everything about Star Wars, really. By the nature of it existing, it just adds so much to the existing universe. Aside from the writing, every aspect of that show is just spectacular. The set design, the costume design, the acting, the special and visual effects, the puppetry with some of the puppets. It's just solid all around. Really spectacular.
I haven't seen all of season 1. I got to go do that. What about you, Johnny?
I've been having some cool chats with GPT, and today I was talking about deep sea creatures, and talking about, would the colossal squid beat a sperm whale?
Mythical matchups kind of thing.
Yeah, and apparently definitely not, right? So looks like we've found pieces of colossal squid inside the stomachs of sperm whales. And the sizes are incredible.
Insane.
So like a sperm whale can be like 20 meters long. I don't know if that means anything to you, Carrick, like with the units, but and then like colossal squids can be up to 14 meters, which is also gigantic, right? When you think about it, like if you picture yourself swimming, you're just chilling, right? You're swimming, and then suddenly, boom, 14-meter colossal squid.
Yeah, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yeah.
The old Hollywood film.
I mean, that's just terrorizing in my head to imagine that.
Did it explain to you that they found sperm whales washed up on shore and the sucker marks and the scratches on their faces from when they fight them? Ooh. And the sucker marks are like 12 inches wide. They were like, dude, this is fucking ridiculous. Yeah, it's just huge. Like they were just showing how big the sucker marks are from them fighting.
Yeah.
And apparently they go down, so they dive.
Yeah. They dive
like a kilometer or something.
More than that, 2 kilometers.
2 kilometers? They can hold their breaths for like 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And then they don't have to come up for air. They just go down, they hunt, which is kind of remarkable. I never saw sperm whales as like an apex predator in my head.
Yeah, they're the biggest predator on Earth. Yeah.
They are, yeah. And go for it.
Did
they have the largest brain of any mammal as well.
True. Did they also describe, I think it's them, I could be wrong on this, that sleep in a vertical position?
Yes, they do.
Is that the one?
Really?
Yeah. So they're just like cruising, just head down. I'm like, dude, those things are. If you don't give a fuck, who's gonna fuck with you? Like he's the Chad of the sea.
As a defense mechanism when there's like a pod.
I mean, everybody poops at his fence. I poop when I.
They've organized. Like researchers have seen them get attacked by pods of orcas, where they just excrete like a cloud of poop to sort of blind the orcas, like squid ink somewhat.
Except, really not like squid.
Yeah.
I love the idea of that. Just that'll stop him. I do.
Yeah, pretty much.
I do think that deep ocean, you know, a lot of the stuff we see because of deep ocean oil rigs and the cameras down there. So you start to, over time, they'll see this or they'll see that. But I do wish one day we did, you know, it doesn't have to be live. They've definitely rolled some up in nets, squids, large squids. But it's like, you know, something is down there just swimming around.
Also, the fossils we found of the sperm whale ancestor, the Leviathan.
That is like twice as big.
Yeah.
Holy.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny too is
shark
that
jaws that are huge. Go ahead. Sorry.
It was saying that the Alex, as I call my chat GPT, was saying Alex was saying that they are sneaky. Like, we haven't seen a lot of these colossal squids. Like, there have been some sightings and stuff, but a lot of it has been just through evidence in...
Yeah, because they're mostly down there. Yeah,
They're mostly down there. But I'm thinking, like, how the hell is this thing sneaky? It's a giant 14-meter thing, and it's just going. It's not like it's, you know, splinter celled behind rocks or something.
Yeah, but there's no light down there at all.
But can't we just light it up? Can't we go there and, like...
Oh, they will. I mean, oil rigs show videos of squids, like, skirting lights. They'll see them on the edge see them on the edge skirting light. So, you know, I mean, anything down there, like, or sound, that kind of stuff. I mean, that especially if they are technically a predator, but if you have a predator that swims vertically and doesn't give a fuck about holding its breath for 2 hours, you'd probably be pretty sneaky. I'm just saying, like, I'd be sneaky if I knew that there was a sperm whale waiting to eat me. I'd be pretty fucking quiet down there. And you know that they're right now just down there planning our demise. They're creating robots.
Not that it's even going to help you, because the sperm whale finds you with the clicks. Like, it finds your physical shape.
Yeah, no shit, right? Yeah.
Not the sound. Yeah.
That's always been impressive to me. Of all the science we talk about, I still think when I was a kid, first hearing about how far the clicks go and how even the guess of what they see or what their, you know, sensory organs pick back up and how finite it is, and the ability, or not finite, sorry, discrete it is, and the ability for them to find by echolocation, stuff like that.
And the complexity of their language too, sperm whales. Yeah.
You know what though? I wonder. So we were talking about brain size. Yeah, see, that's the problem. I always don't like to think about that.
Brain size doesn't necessarily equate to intelligence.
I know
for sure. Yeah.
I know it doesn't. But I always get a little sad because I'm like, oh damn, you know, does that mean they know how shitty it is? I hate thinking about that kind of stuff. Whenever I think about animals, like, you know, where they just look over and they're like, where's Bob?
Think about it when you think about it in the context of the massive whaling industry.
That's exactly what I was going with.
Yeah. Where's Bob?
Where's Bob?
Yeah.
Where's Bob? Oh, you know, these guys with these fucking giant,
they took
you know,
harpoons. Yeah.
I mean, I get why we do it, but Vapor says, so Cthulhu really might be down there. Dude, Cthulhu's such a good example of somebody who was, you know, a fearful person and created, like, I get an instinctual, like,
just
one of the
dread.
Scariest distinct. Yeah. Just the idea of the design. Unknown. And everything about it. Anytime I see a picture of Cthulhu and that kind of stuff, I'm always like, damn, man.
Yeah. What's a good, maybe not Cthulhu, but like deep sea monster in a movie you guys have seen? Anyone's? I think I saw one. I mean,
the one in the giant squid in 20,000 Leagues Beyond the Sea.
Yeah.
Is pretty good.
Yeah.
I feel like.
I would say Water with Kirsten Stewart, the vampire.
Dude, Deep chick. Water with Kristen. Yes.
That had a good called monster. Water, or is it called Deep Water? I think it's called Water, isn't it? Or is it? It's like one word. Is it like water? Squirt? Find out it's called Squirt. No, I think it's called Water. Or am I wrong? I could be wrong. But you know the one I'm talking about. I actually thought those creatures were very well. Meg? Oh, Meg, the shark one. Lewiston, yeah. That one, Deep Blue Sea with the guy who played Punisher, Thomas Jane, was actually a very fun action movie too. That's the one where Samuel Jackson gets eaten right in the middle of a speech. God, that was amazing. Did you find it, Johnny?
No, not exactly.
It's Kirsten
What
Stewart.
was her name?
Kristen Stewart, Kirsten Stewart, one of the two. But I think it's called Water. Unless I'm wrong. Could be wrong.
It's not quite that, but I'll find it.
Sphere was also, Sphere was an alien, technically. Water stuff is pretty scary if they do it right. I think with water things, though, you don't see them, right? So, like, overall, what's super scary about, it's like at some point you don't get to. What's the scariest monster? We'll end it here. What's the scariest monster? What's the best / scariest monster design? It can be any movie. It could be.
It's just underwater.
Jason Voorhees.
By the way.
Oh, it's called Underwater.
Yeah.
I see. What's the scariest or best design for any creature or monster that you have ever seen in a show or movie? Just the best design. Doesn't have to be the scariest. I already know mine for sure.
Oh, go ahead then.
You want me to go for? Oh, I was going to wait for you guys. Scorpius from Farscape. He's basically a hybrid human / I think they weren't called a Scorpio. There was a term for him, but he's like Marilyn Manson, the alien. It's very difficult to describe until you see it, but he's super intelligent, like Hawking level intelligence, well beyond that probably. And he has the ability that you don't even know about for a while to sort of transform biologically. And because it was puppetry, Farscape is definitely back in the day, like your Henson kind of stuff. What they did, I remember when I saw it, and I was well old enough to not realize monsters were real, but when it happened in the show and he gets mad one time and he starts, it is fucking, I was just like, what in the fuck? Like, I was just not expecting the transformation of this character. And I thought his design was incredible. SBZ says Predators. Predators is, honestly, I think the Predator is very cool. Yeah. What about you guys? Is there any that sits with you? It can be the generic ones too, obviously.
I think it might be Alien.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Geigers. That was the one.
Because they also like fucking, jump onto you and like copulate with you through your
little face loving.
Dude,
have you guys noticed as the movies continue, it feels like they obviously are mimicking how we've changed the society, and the more the aliens do that, the more it looks like things are being you know what I mean?
No,
definitely. Something's
the big thing that's actually
like,
annoyed me recently is how quickly the gestation occurs.
It's instant now. Yeah.
In the modern film, where it's just instant. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no longer any tension of it being inside you or anything. It's just.
Dude, I so agree with you. It's basically impregnation, fucking baby, alien, human, or whatever. They've instant baby, and I agree with you. The tension of the entire. Even remember the original movies were they
with John Hurt,
injected? Yeah. So you were like, what? Like, do they have it
inside?
It
looks to be fine and everything, and then until he's sitting by the dinner table and they're celebrating.
Yep.
That they're about to head home, and then
Yeah, God. Dude, you're absolutely right. It's completely ruined. It doesn't mean they're bad movies, but it has ruined the one element of
tension.
like, do you save this person?
Is he pregnant or no?
Yeah, that's for sure real. That is definitely fallen down by the wayside in the let's show as much as humanly possible kind of filming we do now. What about you, Johnny? So you're going to stick with Alien? Sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, I think Alien.
And then
there's the shit out of him.
And then Silver said 2,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yeah, I mean that was the undersea creature certainly.
Disney. Was that Disney?
Yeah, with Kirk Douglas.
Kirk Douglas. And
James. Not James. Okay. Oh god damn it! Who was
Captain
James Madison? Wasn't it?
James
or
no, it wasn't James. Madison.
No, not Madison. Who was Captain Nemo?
It was Captain Nemo. But don't look, it's
James Mason.
James Mason.
Not Madison. Yeah, James Mason was. Yeah.
That was Disney did a good job back in the day, man. Disney people like Disney had some, even their cartoons, there were times where I'd be like, damn, okay, this is sort of a horror movie. You know, there's like Disney actually had some really good stuff back. I'm not saying everything sucks, but it does. Kirsten Stewart movie is called Underwater. Thank you, Vapor. We did find that out. All right. Well, that is it for us. Thanks to these guys as always. Wait, Space Denizen says Scorpius was half Scarin, half Peacekeeper. Yes, he was. Thank you very much. It was Scarin was the name. Anyway, that'll be it for us. If you guys get a chance, iTunes, Spotify, Telegram, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Mastodon. I'm going to run out at some point. That's about it. We're not on Twitch anymore. If you get a chance, spread the word. That'll be it for us. Johnny will be streaming maybe tomorrow. If you decide. Maybe. Yeah, fuck up. Maybe.
Maybe some Doom.
Maybe. Johnny's the Chad of this podcast. Maybe,
Okay,
man.
seek me out, man.
You got to show up. Yeah, you got to buy him dinner first. Anyway, that'll be it for us. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you have an awesome rest of your week and into the weekend. Peace out.
Bye-bye.